get the news going here. There's not. I mean, obviously, there's not a whole lot of news. You know, I forgot to put my picks and stuff in last night. Thank God I had Ezekiel playing.
Yeah.
You know, that Thanksgiving just snuck up on me, man, because I was working hard this week. I mean, it was really busting my ass to get stuff done. Work.
Man, yeah, that.
Luckily, it all turned out okay.
I think it's amazing to me that the way that my team has turned it around these past 3 weeks.
Our division's all over the map.
Yeah. People going from worst to first every week. So
you know, I would have beat you easily, actually. But I don't know what in God's name Ben Roethlisberger was doing for half that game. He ended up getting a pretty good score, but I mean, I looked at at halftime, I was just like,
oh, yeah.
What are you doing? He's like, is he losing his mind? I was like, what is he doing out there?
Been lucky more often.
That's part. I mean, every year I've done well, it's been lucky. And then our division is is tumultuous.
Yeah.
It's been I went from last to first in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think I'm in second. I'm not sure where I'm at, but I think I'm playing the Skins guy. I know I am, and so if I can beat him, I'll be at least in second again. So, but I mean, it's competitive. There's a lot of parity, you know.
Let's see. I'm barely. Of course, I don't know.
Early days.
Is this Terry?
No, that's Hose.
Hose, yeah.
Wow.
He had a good showing from his guys that played last night.
I dropped Amari Cooper. Oh no, I didn't have a Cooper. That's the guy they picked up. So yeah, he did good. Well, I mean, L.A. man.
Yeah.
But you're doing okay. Your tight end did great.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be close.
It'll be good.
And Zeke had a good game, so I did pretty good to start off, and he did good too. So
I think both leagues are.
Here's how I figure we play this boat on this comparison. I didn't take a lot of. I didn't go into histories or any of that junk because it's 2 games. So I figure I've got Aladdin, then Mike versus we can reverse. I don't care.
I think that's what I've got too.
And so I played both versions. Like I said, I had more than a cup of coffee with them. I played like 20 levels of Micro Machines and I played I got to almost to the last level of Aladdin. Fair and square on Aladdin, by the way. I had a pretty good run on the Amiga version.
Good morning, Amiga Bong.
What's up, man? So anyway, I figure we just do our usual shtick, and then we'll just dive in and we'll just chat about it. I mean, keep it loose and easy.
Yeah, man.
You know more about these games than I do, but now I know more than I did. So, but I've got the particulars.
Let me get
the bring up the news again. I don't have a whole lot of news, but I didn't even look for any this morning. I saw a bunch of games coming out for the Amiga, but they're not out, and so that's usually my policy to not say much about them until they come out. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Oh, I got an idea for a video.
Okay.
We need to have an official response to this. Although he was right, but for much what he said.
I was going to say, I'm unsure what points we're going to argue.
I don't know. I don't know yet.
Oh yeah, good evening for you. It's already Friday night.
I'm going to try to call.
You gonna hit the Nori Bong tonight, Amiga Bong?
I didn't look at that. Okay, so we do.
Oh yeah, you're right. He is much louder than me. Thank you, Amiga Bong.
That's the way it should be, Bong. That's the way. That's part of the plan now. For increase our ratings.
Yeah, that's the one thing you need to work on ARG is that you're twice as loud as Brent is.
Dude, I have fooled with his mic, and that's 2 different mics. They make 2 different noises. I swear to you.
Well, you need to switch your mic with his then.
I thought about it.
You're naturally louder.
I thought that's impossible. Have you heard Brent talk?
Yes.
Trust me, we're both loud. Okay. I guess I got more stuff here than I thought, Bode. Let's see. Did we talk about Bruce Lee last time? Yeah, we did, didn't we? The real Bruce. Did we talk about this?
I did. Yeah, I put up. We talked about it last week.
Okay. I should be in mind.
The other chatters are all in England, and they're all at work because Black Friday isn't the national holiday that it is here.
Well, to be fair, this was a holiday before Black Friday came around.
I don't know that the day after Thanksgiving was ever a holiday.
Well, I mean, it's the bridge to the weekend. They cut you a break, basically.
If you work for the government, if you got a cushy government job.
Dude, is that what I got?
That's what we both got.
I work in prisons.
We're both working for the man.
I work in prisons. It's not cushy. Give me one more second, bud, and we'll kick this sucker off.
Are you singing I'm living on the air in Cincinnati?
No, I heard Desert Rose on the way in. Oh. The Ultra Dance Party Super Remix version.
Man, you should go. Have you ever been to that Habitat for Humanity store over there by...
oh, yes, of course.
Man, they are busting out the disco tunes 24/7.
Yeah, they play good stuff over there, man. I have to say.
There was one of the ladies working there. She was rocking it. She was singing along.
Did you see this? This just popped up, and
I've been reading a lot more indie retro news lately because I've been doing those.
We should probably looks. This is a demo. That's I'll talk about a demo. We'll talk about
anything you want to talk about. You don't have to tell me.
Well,
just bring it on.
No, but I'm saying because I don't have that listed up there, and I didn't see it until just now. I will try to cough and snort and be nasty as little as possible.
Okay,
I feel a little bit better today than I have.
You know, I thought about it. I can't remember. You don't like cough drops, right? If I kept a bag of cough drops down here, wouldn't help. Okay.
This is not that kind of cough.
Okay. All right. You ready?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me make sure everything is. Morning, Graham. 1:30 a.m. Saturday in Sydney.
What up, Graham?
All right. Stick with it as long as you can, Graham. But if you get tired, don't fret.
I've been assembling items for Graham. For a rebuttal package.
Oh,
yeah. I picked some stuff up at the Braxton County Monster Museum last week, and I've already gotten stuff for the Mothman Museum. So me and Tree are working on a package for you, Graham, and my kid's working on something.
Here we go.
I'm ready.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And this morning, it's Amigos in the Morning. We are going to talk about two console games that are also Amiga games. We're going to talk about Aladdin and Micro Machines.
Can you sing the theme from Aladdin?
Which one? A Whole New World. We'll talk. Oh man, we actually did a pretty good job.
Getting up there,
yeah. So before we get into the Disney small car combo,
it's an odd pairing. It is.
I want to tell you about something that we're going to start going forward until Christmas time, or until New Year's, really.
All right.
I would like anybody listening to, if you have a favorite moment from the Amigos, all through 2018, please send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com, or you can comment right here on the YouTube video. Let me know your favorite moments, and we are going to compile sort of a clip show to air towards the end of the year that will contain all of everybody's favorite moments from Amigos in 2018.
You know what my favorite moment was? Remember when I finally had enough of you? I pulled your sweater down around your arms and pounded you in the ground like a tent stake.
It was just like a hockey fight, really. You did you pulled it over the top, as they say.
Yeah. You learned a thing or two that day, my friend.
I did. So feel free to submit any ideas you have for best of 2018. Aaron?
Yeah.
It's pulling into the station. It's time for the Gamble Train.
Yes. Oh, there it is. The Gamble Train is on a short track this week.
Oh boy!
Since we're coming out, but there's some good stuff this week. So, this I found. I just browsing at random. I was just browsing at random on YouTube, and I come across this video here, and it's why in God's name was there never a finished release for Raiden? Which is mostly done, the port of Raiden for the Amiga.
Now, this is not Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
No, this is R-A-I... Well, actually, I think it's spelled the same way, R-A-I-D-E-N. This is the popular shoot-'em-up boat. And I'm sure you've played this one. It's known for having the streams that come out, like they're like energy lasers, and you upgrade your weaponry. I was a big fan of this in the back in the day.
This was an arcade port, right?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah. And so, and there it is. We're showing it now on the live stream or on the video if you can see it. It looks. I mean, obviously this is a little slower than you would have gotten in the arcade, but it looks pretty good. And it was a fun game, and apparently it was mostly completed.
And is there a response? Did they find out why it was never completed?
To be honest with you, I didn't catch that in the video.
Oh, okay.
I didn't watch the whole thing, so you can go find out. This one just popped up and I threw it up. So, bleh. So moving along, our good pal the Duncan Styles, has posted a little compilation of Amiga chip tunes that he found. Hey, can't go wrong with the old chip tunes.
Absolutely.
Lovely. And there it is, your patented
demo
pirate screen of doom. You know. So thank you to the Dunk. We're going to skip that one. Now here, again, the Dunk, he's at it again. Someone has put up a demo, an AGA 64K demo, and he has linked that up. Now, hey, interesting. Give that one a shot, Bo. Let's have a look at that.
Okay.
64K. So, and I mean, of course, this is AGA too. I don't think I've seen a ton of AGA demos. And so, yeah, look good. Hey, there's the gamble train right there.
There it is.
So, if you're a demo guy, Styles has set you up. There you go. So, let's talk about probably the big news of the week. The angry video game nerd. You a fan of the show, Boatster? I'm guessing.
You know, we talked about this a little bit on Discord.
Yeah.
I will say that I've seen a lot of his material because back in the day, 10 years ago, when he started doing this, there weren't a whole lot of people doing regular video game related content. You know, video was a hard thing to do. It was much harder to do 10 years ago because YouTube wasn't as much of a presence as it is now, and they just OBS didn't exist. So Angry Video Game Nerd got out there. He was in front of the pack. And in the beginning, I actually thought that his stuff was not quite as vile as it's become now. He's really taken the shtick all the way to the end in terms of the profanity, in terms of the scatological references. So, you know, I have what I call a mixed respect for him because he did set the stage for many shows in the future, but he's not my favorite personality.
I've probably seen, I'm kind of like you, when there was not as much to watch, I've seen all of his shows. I've seen every last one. I even watched some of his movie. And I actually love his Atari game, the Angry Video Game Nerd, just like a Punch-Out clone. It's a lot of fun, actually. He's always been pretty vile, to be honest with you. But I think this is nothing against Rolf. I mean, he seems like a pretty good guy. But I think in the last few years, you of course haven't seen as many. And much like a lot of things, when it becomes more popular, and you could put more money into it, more people are paying attention to it, it sort of waters down.
And he's got a whole network. He's got Pat the NES Punk and all these guys, and they're all under the same umbrella.
And he's another one. Don't even get me started on him. He's in the hot seat right now due to what he said about the Diablo phone game that came out. So if you follow that drama, now Pat's in people just look for a new target week after week. I dread the week where I'm in line, but anyways. All that said, the nerd has done a show this week on the Amiga CD32, which I'm so surprised it took him this long. Low hanging fruit. This is the same guy that has skewered such luminary systems as the Jaguar CD, the poor Sega or the Sega Genesis 32X and that sort of thing. So he goes to work on this. You watched this, didn't you, Bo?
Oh, yeah.
What'd you think?
You know, I don't hate to say it. I mean, it's just the truth. He's right on most counts. The CD32 had sold for an incredibly large price, and the games, by and large, did not deliver on the amount that you paid for the system. That said, I think if you are a fan of the platform, there are some bright spots. The nerd is not going to focus on the bright spots because his name is the Angry Video Game Nerd. Yeah. You know, you mentioned possibly doing a rebuttal video. Maybe we could take a look at some of those bright spots in a future video and sort of do a silver lining comparison.
Well, I mean, you're right. And a lot of what you said, I mean, I agree with it. And of course, he didn't pick the finest titles that were available. He picked a multitude of duddery. That much said, he did say some things that were obviously incorrect, including the fact that these were not. He acted like these systems were not durable or reliable, which I disagree with. He also said that this is what killed Commodore, that's a gross inaccuracy. They were dying. They were on the death's door before this thing came around.
It didn't help.
Well, they didn't make the money they wanted, but
they were also prevented from selling the system, which is a hard thing to do when you're in business to sell systems.
Still, this did not. They were going to die unless this was a massive hit. This was a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I disagree with the people that disagree with him on that part.
Yeah, well, listen. They were in deep trouble.
Yeah,
before this was out.
Right.
Now, I think if you want what killed Commodore, just look at the guys that ran it.
If this would have been a success, Commodore would have continued on. If this was not a success, Commodore died.
I think this couldn't have been a success. That's my contention.
Okay.
And but look at what they did. They were ill prepared. But anyway, he goes through and plays a bunch of the games, and of course kills them, and rightly so, because God knows you deserve a good beating on some of this stuff. He also mocks the controller, which I like. I've said this time and time again. I must be the only guy.
I think you are.
It's a good controller. It's not that bad.
Well, it's not that bad. It's not really.
No, I mean, I use it for all my games on the Amiga now.
Sure. I mean, compared to a joystick with one button, it's a better option.
That's not what I mean, Bo. I'm not going to go down. What did you put on a pocket protector? So, anyway, if you're into that sort of guy, when you looked down, I thought to myself, God, I bet he's got one on. I should have looked. Anyway, if you like the angry video game nerd, or you want to see the Amiga just get beat down, and eventually thrown in the dumpster, I might add, which I was appalled. You notice he gently set the Amiga CD32 on a lovely pile of not garbage,
right?
Because that thing ain't going in the dumpster.
No. It's a high-dollar system.
It was big news. So let's talk about our good and dear friend, the Dreamcatcher. Now, Dreamcatcher had a couple articles up this week. You've got one on here. Again, that's another one. I don't know where he finds this stuff. This is a game called The Fat Man, not Tongue of the Fat Man. Fat Man. Have you ever heard of this one?
So I read this article.
Yeah.
This is a Banana Man clone. Well, it's not really a clone because there was never a Banana Man game.
Yeah, but I was going to say it's a clone. I've never heard of Banana Man.
So Banana Man was a popular British animated show back in the day, and so instead of making a Banana Man game, I guess they made this game called Fat Man that shared striking resemblance with Banana Man. So Dreamcatcher puts it through its. I don't know how to finish that phrase. What do you put it through? Put it through its
paces.
Paces. Yeah, I wanted to say put it through its punches, but that's a different metaphor.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either. That's why I didn't say it. So anyway, check out this article by DK.
I like that picture. Eat or die. It's a valid point.
It's true.
He also had another article, and he also included the transcript, which I've posted. He talks about the various gaming adaptations or adaptations, if you will, of Red Heat. Now, I'm not going to lie. I have never watched all of Red Heat. I've watched some of Red Heat.
Is Red Heat a game? Is it a movie? Is it an action flick like Die Hard or something?
It's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I believe Jim Belushi is his buddy in this one.
So it's like a kind of like Bad Boys.
Well, no. Arnie is a commie in this. He's a Russian, old school.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And he come to America, and I believe he's looking for a Russian villain. That's like I said, I've only seen some of it, and it's been years and years because it just didn't appeal to me. Not a big Jim Belushi fan, if you want the truth. And so in this game, you play as Arnie. You're whooping that butt.
Boy, look at those muscular men.
Yeah. Well, in that era, everyone, I don't know if you remember this, but everyone, including myself, were all ripped.
Oh, okay.
With an 8-pack.
See, I wasn't around back then.
And then the 90s came, and oh, man.
Everybody just kind of let go.
Well, food got better. That was part of it, you know. But
it seems like everybody in this game is wearing a loincloth.
That's right. We all wore those.
Okay.
You didn't want you?
It was a different time.
Listen, when you look at that guy. What is going on at this level?
Yeah, I don't know. I may need to blur some of this out.
Apparently, this took place at the Arnold Classic, this particular event. We're watching Arnold pummel these other ripped guys while naked ripped guys pose in the background. Man, what crowd were they going for the appeal of that one?
I don't know.
So anyway, Double Trouble from the Dreamcatcher there. Now, one more we want to go over, and I don't have this one lit up yet, but this one popped up on Indie Retro News, so I think it's worth mentioning. And Bo, I think you looked into it. You said, Back to the Future Part 3, Timeline of Monkey Island Adventure Fan Demo.
Mm-hmm.
What's the scoop on this, Boat?
So they've taken the Monkey Island engine and transported Marty McFly and the DeLorean into it. So this is a you can actually go and download this right now. You can play a short demo of it, and it seems really cool. You know, the Scum engine is definitely awesome. It's a great platform for adventure titles. And you know, are there any more beloved franchises than Back to the Future and Monkey Island? I mean, those are two of the top. People really go all out for those.
You're right, Bud.
So this seems like a really cool thing. Of course, it's not out yet, but we will continue to follow the story.
You can get the demo.
Yeah.
Normally, we don't mention the stuff that isn't out, but this one, at least, you can play the demo. I will mention as we close this news segment. There are I've read about at least 2 or 3 more games that are supposed to pop before the year's out. And again, we don't normally cover them if they're not out or in some form. But they're coming. So I'd say in the next couple of weeks, the news will grow, Boat.
Yeah, now I have been busy the past couple days putting out some things.
Cranking out video like no man has cranked before.
Yeah, so a couple things that I've put out recently. Oops, I've switched to the wrong scene. Is
behind a curtain.
Today's newest port comparison. You know, I've been doing these port comparison videos.
I knew you were going to get this one going.
This one is quite famous in Amigos lore because when the first time we mentioned Altered Beast, Aaron couldn't say enough good things about the Amiga
I was
version.
incorrect. I had obviously was wrong. I had misplaced. I had forgotten about it.
Now the
and it is and your video port comparison really shows light on how god awful it is.
Now you do get some redemption because Altered Beast, even in its arcade form, is not the best game in the world.
It's a fun little diversion. I mean, the kid play it,
but
2 players simultaneous.
But it definitely does not shine on the Amiga. The Mega Drive version. This was, of course, the original pack-in for the Mega Drive, and it is much better. So if you're interested,
got better.
Yeah, if you're interested in seeing how the Amiga version stacks up, you can check that out. I've also done port comparisons with Outrun, the Addams Family. And there's lots more to come.
Has anything surprised you yet? I know Outrun clearly did not, unless you were surprised at how horrible the
Amiga version. I think that the one that was the most surprising was probably Outrun, just because, you know, I knew it was bad, but I'd never played it back to back with the Genesis version.
Oh, man.
Another thing that I put out, this is not Amiga related, but we had a lot of fun playing the computer cookbook for the ZX Spectrum. This was part of a Spectrum stream that I did as part of our month of giving thanks.
Yes.
This came in from O'Brien's Retro and Vintage. We had a lot of fun cooking some various 80s British classics. And I know that, you know, when you think about great food, the first thing you think of is 80s British food. So
yeah,
this was much more entertaining than I thought it would be. And so make sure you check out Fun with the Computer Cookbook for the ZX Spectrum.
Now, is this one of the O'Brien donations?
That's
here?
right. That's
because what a wacky one there.
Yeah.
When I saw you put that up, I had to laugh. Yeah, you went crazy with the ZX. You lucky boy. It looks good, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it turned out great.
Yeah. In addition to that, there's been a couple other ZX Spectrum games that I played. Knuckle Busters, and then there's a new C64 game called Spider Maze.
I watched this. What did you think about this one?
You know, Spider Maze is...
It's Pac-Man-y looking.
Yeah, it's very Pac-Man-y looking. I think that there's not a whole lot to it. You collect diamonds. When you run over a light bulb, it makes you invincible. The biggest problem I have with it is that in the documentation and in the title screen and when you die and stuff, it's like the spiders are angry, the spiders hate you. Well, guess what? The spiders don't care. The spiders travel on set paths, and they don't care if you're running around or not. They don't chase you. They basically just do their own thing. So that kind of took away some of the challenge of the game, because basically you just kind of had to wait around until the spiders weren't around, and then you could do your thing. However, this is a new free C64 game in 2018. The music's okay. The graphics are fine. You know, if you're a fan of the platform, you should check it out for sure.
Yeah, it looks pretty sharp.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks pretty good.
Yeah. Aaron, you want to talk about this past week's ARG Presents?
Well, we had a double shot this week to a certain degree. We did a little short yesterday that we just put out. It was a Thanksgiving thing where we talked about what we were thankful for. It's Britt's good idea. So we covered just a couple games in brief. I think it's like a 10-minute segment. And then the big show this week was 1990s arcade games.
Oh.
We covered... well, you know, I changed my game this week about 20 times. I almost did Time Killers, and I almost did a couple of different fighting games, but I just covered a fighting game, so I thought, well, let's try something different. So I went ahead and played Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder.
Yeah.
Because it didn't get a home release, and it's such a good game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not real well known. And then Brent, in honor of the late, great Stan Lee, covered the arcade version of X-Men, which was a huge hit, and he found all kinds of crazy facts out about it and stuff. That was a lot of fun. We, of course, arcade games, we love them, and we actually have owned X-Men. We had an X-Men cabinet briefly, so we had a good time with it. So if you're into that sort of thing, check it out. This week we're going something way out of bounds. On the next show, we will be covering, and I have zero experience here, folks, except for maybe playing it a couple of times when I was a kid. We're covering Game & Watch.
Game & Watch.
So we're going to be doing 4 Game & Watch titles.
Oh, my gosh.
Since they're so small.
Wow. I can't wait for that because I'm a big Game & Watch fan.
Are you? Well, good. I may have to consult you on some of
I've never actually played any of the Game & Watch games, so you may not, but I like the idea very much of Game & Watch.
I am so old that I have played both the ones I picked. That's why
Did you ever have one of those watches that you could play the game on?
I don't think I ever owned one. Mm-hmm. I saw them because they had like arcade versions.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure there's a Frogger or a Zaxxon or something, if you can imagine. And they were cool. But I'm not a big watch guy. I tended to just wreck stuff.
You live life on your own time.
I live life like a raving idiot that just rams his arms and legs and stuff. And, that's why I don't wear chains, because I get caught on stuff, get killed.
That's why I don't wear chains.
Yeah, but man, I'll watch a lot of your comparison stuff, and I thought it was great, very cool, very fun to watch that stuff compared. Yeah, just to toot our own horn, I guess. That was good.
We're awesome.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, it's time to talk about the first of this week's 2 games. Why don't we kick off with Aladdin?
Very good. Now, have you ever seen this film?
Absolutely.
I've never seen it.
Really?
No, I never. I don't. New Disney, I didn't watch that much of it.
I'm not Disney?
It was new. It was new to me back then.
25 years old.
I know.
At this point.
I'm not killing it. I'm just saying I didn't see it. So, but I'm of course, as you get older, you catch some of the tunes and you. Well,
I tell you, this one is great because. Number one, I dig the setting. The 1001 Nights, the Arabian setting, all that stuff is cool.
Yeah.
Number two, Robin Williams is great as the genie.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you stand on Robin Williams. You might hate him.
I liked him more then than I mean, it got old for me. I don't hate Robin Williams. Listen, I used to watch Mork and Mindy. So there you go. So Aladdin. Now. We're going to look at We're going to look at the Amiga version and sort of have a look with its console brethren, right, on this one. So this came out in the Amiga in '94. This was an AGA-only game, which you can tell by looking at it. Now, the developer of this was, as far as I can tell, the only thing they ever did was called Jaguar. And some places didn't even list them as the developer, but a couple places I saw, so I'm going to go with them. Do
you think when the lights shut down over at Atari, they just headed on over?
That's what it was. Well, this was '94, so the lights were still on. It's a one-player game, and the Amiga version, this was put out by the guy that coded it, and one of the artists was a guy named John Twitty. He was also did Cool Spot, which we've talked about a few times, never covered. He also did Putty Squad. So the people that worked on this were mostly people that have messed around the Amiga some. Like the guy that did the music was a guy named Andrew Barnabas, and he did the music for, among other things, Swiv, which we liked Swiv, and the music was good. So this game came out on multiple systems. So we're not going to look at every conceivable port, but we'll talk about a couple. But it did come out on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. This game really both these games sort of bridged the gap in consoles. This came on a Game Boy, Game Boy Color, NES, and the PC for DOS and Windows. I remember when you used to there's that brief time where you'd have to do both, 2 ports. Remember that? And of course, the Genesis also had a version, and the Genesis version was the premier version By that I mean it was the original version.
Arguably the best version, also.
Well, we'll talk about that. So, of course, based on the 1992 Disney film, which I had not seen. So, what do you do in this game? Well, you play Aladdin, and it's your basic. I mean, you're another one of these games where it's just like a run around platform game with a sword. What would you compare this to that we've played?
Prince of Persia.
No, it's nothing like Prince of Persia.
You're an idiot. It's so much like Prince of Persia that it's not even funny.
What are you talking about?
You run around with a sword.
Have you ever played Prince of Persia?
Yes, I played
it's slow. It's like 1 or 2 enemies a level.
Right, because it's 10 years older than this game.
No, I didn't get that at all. I didn't think it was anything like Prince of Persia. Now, I will say this. If you want to compare this to a Prince of Persia game, you play the Super Nintendo version.
Okay.
Which the Capcom released.
Oddly enough, a contemporary of this game.
Yeah. And the game has much more jumping and ledge holding stuff. This has some of that. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I don't. This is so much faster than Prince of Persia. I didn't see the resemblance, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, it's set in the same area. You've got a sword, but I mean, it's not gameplay wise. The feeling is totally different to me.
Okay.
You don't think so? Have you played Prince of Persia? The controls are totally different.
It plays like a game that's 10 years older than this game. If they were to make Aladdin 10 years before they made it, 10 years before 1984, if they had made Aladdin in 1987, it would have been exactly like Prince of Persia.
Also, Prince of Persia is like gruesome. It's got no cartooniness to it. It's dank. The dungeon's dank. You never go outside. I don't think it's that dank.
I think it's kind of fresh smelling.
Oh, God. You're just being argumentative now. So, in this game, what is this cat's name, the prince here? Does he have a first name? I don't even know what his name is.
I don't know. Rachmaninoff?
No, you don't know. You play the prince, you've got your sword, and you can collect apples. Now, I'll get to this apple element here in a minute. And you go through, I think it's like, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's 5 levels. Excuse me, to get to the end.
Is the prince's name Aladdin?
I don't know. I've never seen the film. But you end up fighting, I think it's Jafar.
Because who else would Aladdin be?
I don't know, dude. I've never seen the movie.
I think it is, because, yeah. The prince's name is Aladdin.
So, and at the end, isn't the bad guy Jafar?
Jafar,
yeah.
Right.
So, and you go through, at the beginning you start in sort of like a city or a marketplace, you know, and then you go to the desert, you go to a dungeon.
It's very there's all kinds of settings, you know.
Right.
This is not one of those games where the first 8 stages you play are all the market. Every stage you're in a different setting.
You sort of go back to the market like the third stage.
You do, but it changes things up.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Basically, Aladdin has a sword and he runs through it. And you have a certain amount of health. You go through and you try to beat the bad guys, and the levels are set up in sort of a puzzly way. Not where you're doing puzzles, but you have to go up certain ramps or certain chains or whatever to get to different parts of the level. You know, it's
more agility based puzzles than puzzles.
Yeah, you can jump, you can bounce off like flag poles or whatever, and you can. It's actually nice. It plays well. Now I had the luxury. I played this 2 ways on the Amiga. Of course, I played it on the actual Amiga, and then I played it on the emulated version. And so I got the benefit on the emulated version of having to the 2-button control.
If you play this on I believe that this game is 2-button control out of the box.
Yeah, it is.
CD32
but I mean, the reason I wanted to use it 1 button. So I picked jump for up because I could get both. I wanted to play both ways, and I don't like jump for up.
Surprise! Yeah, this game, you know, there's a lot of games where you can make an argument for up for jump. This is not one of them. This is firmly written in the style of Super Mario Brothers and Sonic the Hedgehog in terms of what they're asking you to do.
Yeah,
and up for jump would be almost impossible.
Now, I thought the game controlled pretty well. I mean, I did get frustrated at first, but it's one of those games you just sort of have to. It's got its own unique. It's not that unique, but it's got its own style. You've got to get used to how it, like fighting the bad guys is kind of tough because their sword swipes make them a long distance. Some of them are like the guy that juggles the knives always gave me trouble. Of course, this thing also has every once in a while you'll come across one of these platforms that will disintegrate under your weight. One of the things that bothered me the most, and of course it's nothing that's unusual, but when you missed a big jump, you ended up having to go all the way back through a bunch of crap you'd been through.
This is the freaking Lionheart disease, where you have a
I'm not gonna say that,
you have a level that's vertically oriented, and if you screw up, then you are hampered in your progress.
That was around a long time before Lionheart came out. That's a Wizards and Warriors and all those other games did that too. But I will say what they got right in this: the graphics in this are top shelf. They're cartoony. They look very cartoony, don't they? He moves great. Smoothness. I think everything scrolls around nicely, and the bad guys are cartoony. Again, I had trouble actually getting the bad guys and without getting hurt a lot. Because you could take some shots. The sound's okay. I will say this: the very opening of this, I just let it run, and it's playing that Whole New World song, and then it just slowly eases into singing.
Right.
And it was beautiful, man.
Very surprised when I heard that.
I was like, oh, and that no version, the other version I heard did that. And it sounded, I was like, wow, that is nice.
Yeah, very good.
So that was nice. Overall, it wasn't too frustrating. I mean, I managed to get to the dungeons, which is, I figure, it's pretty good. I mean, I had to give it a shot a while. Now, what were your thoughts on this one, Boat?
This game is great. I am more inclined to like this sort of game. I like platforming games. It looks amazing. At the beginning of the game, they give you a screen that says, this is what you're trying to collect and this is what these things do.
Yeah.
It's different than so many other games that we cover on this show where it's like, here's a buttload of things to collect that don't really do anything. And some of them do stuff, but we're not going to tell you what they do. This game was very good about, that. It also, it's challenging, but it's not, it's not impossible by any stretch. The only problems that I had were figuring out exactly where the platforms began and ended. Sometimes the backgrounds and the foreground is drawn so beautifully that sometimes you don't know what's what.
And they've got almost like a pseudo depth to some parts where you run in front of something and then when you come back across, you're on it.
Exactly. They do a lot of the stairs that way.
Yeah, we covered something recently in the Amiga that did something very similar. I can't remember what it was, but you have to come out from where you're at, and then you've moved up in depth, and then you could jump on the other thing. Right. So that did it was kind of odd.
I liked the stage design. I liked how they took you to many different places. Almost all of the different scenarios. I didn't get very far in this game because it did get too challenging for me. But I felt like with practice I could have gotten good at it. I didn't feel like it was impossible. But watching the playthroughs on YouTube, it really takes you through every major scene in the movie. I know you haven't seen the movie, but trust me, it does. The genie plays a big part in this game. There's bonus stages that are the genie. The genie's all over the place, morphing himself into different things, exactly like the movie. I mean, this game,
it's got like almost like a slot machine level thing at the end.
This game probably captures the feeling of the movie better than any other licensed game that I've played. Maybe the Addams Family does just as good of a job, but the Addams Family doesn't look nearly as good as this. I mean, this looks, if you were a kid and you saw this game running in a store, you would think it looked like the cartoon.
Yeah, it looked nice, I have to say. And it uses the AGA. I mean, everything looks good. I mean, I don't think it looks like you're missing anything until you play other versions where you'll see there's stuff missing. But overall, I liked it. Now, let's talk about the apples. The apple throwing. It's funny. I went through this game and I'm collecting apples and didn't know there was even an apple throwing element until I went and looked at the docks. And I'm like, oh, snap, look at that. And so that helps you on some of these enemies that are a little bit more tough to get through. And also the apples are used to guide you to where you need to go, which I always like that when they use collectibles. Right. This is the opposite of Zool.
Right.
They just have them everywhere. Absolutely. This thing helps you know where to go by putting the apples out there, so you're like, okay, I'm on the right track.
Yeah, the level design is great. It's not an ideal solution to use the space bar to switch between the apples and the sword, but I mean, that's what you've got to do. It would have been great if they would have written that into the CD32 controller, if you were playing with CD32 controller.
Yes, that's what I wanted to mention. When you throw the apples, you've got two ways to do it. You can hit the space bar on the Amiga, and it'll turn you from sword to apple.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can pull down and hit the button, and you'll throw apples.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting that to work all the time.
Right. What I ended up doing was just I wasted a lot of apples. I got real far in this game without using apple one. So, it
does help with the enemies that are throwing the swords.
Right.
And things like
but I
that.
got through several bosses. I did pretty good at this. I was surprised that this is one of those games where I'd had a cup of coffee with it on the Genesis, but I really hadn't got into the Amiga version that much, and I was not necessarily looking forward to this one, but it had a rep. It ended up being pretty fun.
Yeah.
So I think the Amiga version is pretty solid.
Now we should probably talk a little bit about the Amiga version versus the Genesis version.
Sure, and there are actually quite a few differences. They actually sort of play pretty similar, don't they? A lot of the flourishes are not in the Amiga version that are in the Genesis version. But there's some things that aren't in it that I actually prefer on the Amiga. For example, in the Genesis version, your life bar is it's a lamp with smoke coming out of it, right? On the Amiga version, you've got the genie looking at this. There's like a bar at the top that has a score and stuff. And the genie's looking at an hourglass.
Right.
And the hourglass is your energy. And his expression changes the more hurt you get.
It's like James Pond in that way.
I like that, actually. I like that. I like that better. I prefer... Normally, I don't prefer having a screen taken up for something, but this screen is taken up for good stuff.
Yeah.
They could have done it like the Genesis, and just made that top bar see-through. And I would have been okay with that. But I don't have a problem with that. What did you think about that?
Well, they've done this on the Amiga version because they couldn't show the expansive screen that they do on the Genesis version. I figured that's what it was. What I read on Lemon, and this is from a random reviewer on Lemon, so take this with a grain of salt, that this was actually Virgin's engine that they used for Cool Spot, which was an ECS OCS game.
That doesn't surprise me.
And so, if they would have gone all out with all of the tools in the AGA toolbox, they could have made a version that was just like the Genesis version. However, they decided not to go that route and just use the AGA for the extra colors.
Did you find that it affected you as you played? The lack of screen?
Well, I didn't play too much of the Genesis version, so I didn't really know what I was missing.
Right. Well, I played them both, and I can tell you, it didn't affect me game-wise. Like I said, I don't know, maybe I'm dopey, but it amused me to watch the genie's expression, because at the end he's like, oh!
Right. I do think that's a nice touch, and it makes me, I wish that they would have included that in the Genesis version. I agree with you. I think it's a better way to display your life, for sure.
Something else, of course, you've got more parallax and more defined backgrounds, and it's a sort of like the Addams Family curse.
Yeah.
The backgrounds, don't get the Amiga versions aren't as sparse as Addams Family.
They exist, yeah.
Yeah, there's something going on back there, but the Genesis version, it has more stuff going on.
Yeah, and we're watching this desert level now on the screen, and you can see it's like a Shadow of the Beast style gradient of color on the back, and the Amiga version just has the one color of the sky.
I think the Amiga version had better I like the music better than the Genesis version. I will something else. When you die on the Amiga version, your guy just kind of tips over and you can see it's the same animation, but on the Genesis version, the genie's there, and it looks like a corner man in a boxing match.
Right.
He's trying to help you out. He's working on your back.
Yeah, it's much better. It's much better.
And so there's a little more, again, there's a little flourish there. There's some transitional bits where in the game where they'll show like a scarab or something with some glowing effects that are not in the Amiga version. There's an interesting, and actually it comes up here. There's some interesting work with foreground elements in that dungeon level. I thought it was kind of neat. It works.
Yeah.
It's well thought out and well done. The guys that put this together knew what they were doing for sure. It's very beautiful.
It is,
and that's stuff you didn't have to put in. But it's nice, and really these games
adds to the cinematic quality.
Sure, these games are very. they're very similar in most ways. I mean, if you're going to give the nod to one in terms of graphics, and also the fact, of course, with the Genesis controller, you've got all the buttons for all your stuff.
Yeah, I think that most people would say that the graphics are better on the Mega Drive version. The Mega Drive version plays faster, but
it's
the
very
Amiga
close.
version, it's very close, and the Amiga version sings to you at the beginning.
And I mean, yeah. I mean, this is one. If you picked up the Amiga version, you're not going to be like looking at the other game picture on the back and being like, oh.
Right. You're not going to be disappointed.
You're not going to really tell much of a difference.
Yeah.
Really, the biggest difference is that bar at the top, and the bar is not bad. I like the bar. Overall, I really enjoyed the game. I was surprised that I got further than I thought I would. This is another one that I always hear about. You know, so I'm glad I got to actually sit down with it and play it for a while because I enjoyed it quite a bit. I also looked at the Super Nintendo versions. I don't know if you worked. Have you ever played the Super Nintendo version of this?
No.
Just for fun, I looked at it. Now, the Super Nintendo version is actually not a version. It's a whole other game.
Really?
It's a game from Capcom. Now, and this game is, you were talking about a Prince of Persia sort of affair. This game is actually, I think it's more, it's more along the lines of something like that in terms of, it's more leapy. It's not, the graphics aren't as good. This is regarded as not as good a version.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell just by looking at it that it doesn't look like the cartoon anymore.
Well, it doesn't. And this version is not well regarded, to be honest with you. But it's okay. I played it. And there are similarities. You know, it's not like it's completely different, but it's not the same. But this has more. See the elements of him pulling himself up. So this I can sort of see, even this is not that much like Prince of Persia. But one thing I wish, it's funny you mentioned Lionheart, and you mentioned it in a very derogatory way. But if you could have taken this character, right, with his abilities with the sword, and maybe thrown that Apple type projectile element into the Lionheart engine, then you really got something.
That's very true.
I mean, the Lionheart, the backgrounds, the levels, they were all gold. The actual characters where you had your struggles come in, you get a guy like this, you could stick this guy in there, you're in business.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, excuse me.
How did this one review?
It reviewed, well, I mean, you can imagine, it reviewed really well. So, it's funny, anytime you have a real popular game, you see everyone comes out of the woodwork to review it. Lemon gives this one a 7.91, which is pretty good.
I'm surprised that it's that low, to be honest with you. I figured this would be an above an 8.
Well, I think maybe there's some people reviewed it a little bit lower just based on the fact that the Genesis version has a slight edge, but you never know. Amiga Action gave it a 92%. Amiga Computing 85. That seems low. Amiga Format at 90. Amiga Magazine gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Here's a new one, Bo. Amiga Point of View. I don't think
Amiga Point of View.
They give it an 81%. Amiga Power 88%. And CU Amiga gave it 90%. So not too bad. I mean, it's right in that ballpark. I would say this is I would say this is an A title to me.
Me too.
You know, it's not. I don't think it's the longest game. You know, maybe some people took.
I don't know. It takes over an hour to complete.
Yeah, but it's you know, but I mean, I'm trying to think what people would deduct points for.
I think people. There's always going to be a contingent of people that think, oh, Disney.
Well, this also came out a year after the Genesis port, the Genesis version, and so. I don't know if people might have held that against it. You never know. The Amiga and DOS ports of the game came out in '94, and the Genesis came out in November '93. So it's not like it was that long either. I eBayed the heck out of this thing. In the UK, you can get this thing all day long, $50, $38, and then I found one in Germany for 23 US bucks. So if you're looking for a copy of this, wouldn't be the worst thing. The box looks pretty nice too.
Right.
You know, Disney was really hitting its stride about that era, right? Aladdin was one of the big kickoffs to that big. I mean, they had Lion King.
You know,
the Little Mermaid.
General consensus is that the Disney revival started in '89 with the Little Mermaid, and and they had a run, probably about, you know, a 10-year run where everything was just blockbuster gold. Because that was Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Aladdin. You know, just they had no duds. And that was coming after a decade where you had stuff like The Fox and the Hound and stuff that just did not perform well in the box office.
It's funny because I was thinking, I remember going to the drive-in with my folks to see The Rescuers. Remember The Rescuers?
That was, yeah, also
Bob
in that
Newhart.
dark period. Yeah.
What do you mean? It was a huge hit.
It was not a huge hit.
No, it was. I've
not,
researched it.
It was not compared to The Little Mermaid, The Lion
it was.
King.
You got it was at its time. It was
It's
a
all
big
relative.
hit. That's why they got the sequel. But
the sequel sucked too.
well, I didn't see the sequel.
The first one was
I
great.
saw the sequel. What am I saying? It was okay.
The Rescuers Down
The
Under.
first one was better.
Yeah.
But the next thing I saw at a theater from Disney, why are you killing? That's a good flick.
It was, but it just didn't.
It did well in the
didn't
theater.
do the numbers that these films did.
They were a new era because Disney cracked the code too. That's a whole different story. We could get into this some other time. But the next movie I saw, I was thinking, I was like, that's the last Disney movie I saw. You know what I saw? I don't know why. The girl I was with wanted to see it. Mulan. I did go and see that. It was okay.
Yeah, that was 98,
That had Eddie
99.
Murphy as the little dragon.
I remember that my car broke down on the way to see that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
My car broke down when I was going to see Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Did you fix your radiator with duct tape?
No, I hiked.
That's what I did.
I hiked in foot-deep snow off the interstate to a house and used the phone.
My car broke down in the parking lot of the mall, and I walked over to the hill to Lowe's to get some duct tape and radiator fluid.
How'd that work out?
Well, my buddy that was holding the patch in the gap got radiator fluid in his eye. I laughed. It was kind of funny.
Did it kill him or hurt him?
He was all right.
Oh, okay, good.
He joined the Army soon after.
So it's a happy tale.
It was a happy tale.
You drove a guy to the Army.
That's right.
Nice job, Boat. So, shall we move along?
Let's move
after
along.
that riveting conversation. Now, this game here, I had a little more experience with because my brother liked to play it.
Now, before we get into the game, let me ask you: were you a Micro Machines buyer as a youth?
I did. Did I have some Micro Machines? Yes, and probably some of the knockoff competitors.
Because the two big brands of small vehicle, of course, were Hot Wheels and Micro Machines.
Right. Well, there's another brand there. Who's the other guys that make the little cars? Matchbox.
Ertl makes them just like the real thing.
I don't know what that is.
Only smaller.
I don't know what that is. Yeah, I don't know.
They made tractors and stuff.
And I also remember the Bigfoots, the little battery operated trucks. I like those too because they actually moved. But Micro Machines, I was always puzzled as their popularity as a kid.
I think it was because they were so much smaller, and they came in unlike Hot Wheels, which you basically had the cars and then you had the tracks.
Yeah.
Micro Machines came with these whole dioramas, like Superman City.
You're right, but they were incredibly small.
They were.
You could lose them. You could step on them. And they were incredibly small. What could you do with them? A Hot Wheels car, you could take the car and go bzzz, and zoom it down a track in a loop.
Yeah.
You ain't zooming a Micro Machines down jack squat.
No, they were very light.
You go bzzz, and they go bing, and they fly off the. It's like flipping a thimble.
It's very true.
So I never got into, but I mean, everyone had them. It's like baseball cards. Even if you don't like them, you got a couple Star Wars cards or something. So along comes this game, Micro Machines, the game. Now this one came out in '93, and of course this is a Codemasters joint. Codemasters boat. And this of course came out on a bunch of the systems, very similar to Aladdin. Actually, the guys that the game selection committee knew their stuff. They picked two games that were sort of contemporary and very similar. Excuse me. They came out on the NES. Super Nintendo, DOS. Now this one I didn't know about, Boat. The Philips CDI got a port of this. Did you know that?
No.
Probably the greatest game ever.
Did you play it?
I don't have a CDI. I'd like to get one. It came out in the Game Gear as well, Boatster. And of course the Genesis / Mega Drive. So, Micro Machines. What is it? It's pretty simple actually. It's as simple as it gets. You are tasked with racing 1 to 4. It's either one other guy or 3 other guys in a race with a Micro Machine. Now there are varying Micro Machines. I can tell you the ones I saw, and there may be more. But you've got all sorts of little cars. Plus you've got little boats. You've got helicopters. You've got tanks. I didn't even know there were tanks until I was playing for this thing.
I think that they made a whole line of Micro Machines, but I think the cars were the only ones that were really popular.
Well, I mean, I know they did. I'm talking in the game, though. I didn't know there were tanks, that shootable tanks. So I thought that was a surprise to me when I got to that level. So, of course, they're micro machines. So the levels are based on sort of like mundane, everyday areas. For example, you race boats in a bathtub. You race.
You're at the breakfast table with the 4x4s.
Right. You also go out and on almost like a picnic table. There's a billiard table you race on.
Kind of reminds me of that game. What was that game that we played that was on the pool table?
It was that one to robots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. Actually, that was a good game. I can't remember what it was. It had a real wacky name. And in this game, there's a couple ways to play this game. And this is something it's funny, over the years you don't get stuff. And this was I didn't get, now I got it. So, first of all, when you start the game, you can pick 1 or 2 players. Okay? When you pick 1 player, which is what I did, you then get the choice of playing 2 different types of game. There's head-to-head, and then there's like a race. And so when you play a race, it's you and 3 other people that are computer people, and then you race around the track.
Right. And
you try to win. It's just a standard race. And then if you win, you advance. It's that simple. And you actually have to qualify for the race, and then but qualification is irrelevant. The head-to-head version is much different, and I have to say, this may be something that you see all the time, and maybe I'm just an idiot, but I don't think I've ever seen this sort of race done before, and I liked it. And it's a race where you're head-to-head, and you get a series of lights at the bottom of the screen. And as you race, if your opponent screws up and gets off the screen, your light gets lit up. You get one of his lights.
Okay. So this is where the veil is unraveled, because you did not look at the long play of the Amiga version.
No, I played
the Amiga version doesn't have that.
It does have it.
We're looking at it right now. This is the head-to-head.
No, this isn't the head-to-head. This isn't the head-to-head. This is 4 players.
I just watched.
Dude, I played it.
I just watched the thumb go to head-to-head.
Dude, I'm telling you, this is the way it works.
Okay.
All right. And so as you lap this is not the head-to-head. This is the 4-player. As you go ahead.
I see what you're talking about.
As you go ahead of your opponent. Now what do you say?
You're right.
Okay, thanhank you.
I'll edit this out later.
Yes,
no one will
good
ever
move.
See it.
So as you knock your opponent off the board, your lights get up, and when you light up all the lights, he has none left.
Right.
He's out.
So what they were doing here is, instead of and they did this ostensibly for playing with 2 players, although the same thing happens when you're playing against the computer, is that you can't have in a single screen 2-player game 1 person on the screen and 1 person off the screen.
That's right.
It's funny that you mentioned, has there ever been another game that did that? I think most of the time when you go off the screen, your character will just appear on the screen, and you've got 2 different times. You'll get a time bonus or something like that. I thought the way they did this was really cool.
Well, I was thinking, me and the kid played a lot of San Francisco Rush, and often you'll explode or something will happen. It would have been awesome if this was somehow implemented into that, because does it slow the game down? Yes, but it works perfectly for this. I enjoyed this game. I never understood what the hell was going on in that. I enjoyed the game 1,000% more because of that. Because one thing it allows you to do is, in micro machines, okay, let's say you're in a boat. You're driving around a bathtub. Sometimes you might get hung up with some bubbles, and the computer juts off and leaves you behind, and bam, he gets a point, okay? But what you can do is you can sort of cheat the system. If you find a big straightaway, you can just haul as much butt as you can up the straightaway and not even bother making the turn.
Yeah.
All you're doing is making sure he's trying to make the turn. He's off the screen.
You're playing it a different way for sure.
And it's so, because I needed the edge. I wasn't good enough to get, when I play the computer in the second level and the breakfast table I hate the most. I don't know why, it's my hardest level for all these. And I suck at it. And normally, back in the day, it's where I would just give up and be like, this game's crap. You got to get past it, then you move on. But the other levels, I was pretty good at a lot of the levels, just because of the way the track was set up, you could use that exploit and cheat. Another thing, on the tank level, with the tank levels, I almost sort of flawed, because I just let the computer get ahead of me slightly and just shoot him and just take off. And you win like that. So I crushed the tank
Now, let me
levels.
ask you a question. Did you use any sort of level select or anything to get these higher levels? Because
I did.
My biggest problem with this game is at level 3, there is so much of a spike between level 2 and level 2, I could win every single time. Level 3, I didn't have a chance.
Level 2, I thought was the hardest one.
Really? Okay.
I hate that. Anything with the cereal, I had trouble with.
This level that we're watching right now, I must have played it 50 times trying to even place.
The nuts and bolts level is actually the hardest levels for me are the ones where you can fall off the table, which is this one. But the hardest level for me was far and away was actually the desert ones, where you have the sand. Those are tough too.
See, I will probably put up another. I didn't realize there was a level select code in this game.
Yeah, and the Amiga version, my version was built in.
Oh, okay.
And you hit enter and you go to the next level.
Oh, that's great because
so I went through 20 levels of this and played them a lot.
There are no long plays of the Amiga version.
Yeah.
And my theory was that third level is just so hard that no one could get by it. At first I was going to use the World of Long Plays Mega Drive version, but then I just recorded some footage that we're using on this show. But it's great to know that there is a level select available.
Yeah, and it works perfectly.
Speaking of the Mega Drive version, I did do a port comparison of this. These games also compare fairly well together. The design of the title screen and everything is similar. The Mega Drive sort of has an edge because it's got a black background instead of the kind of funky looking purple background, I think. But other than that,
I like the purple better.
You like the purple?
Yeah,
okay.
I did. Because at least they put some effort into the color as opposed to that.
The gameplay itself is pretty identical. However, they have totally rebalanced the game and made it easier.
Wait a minute. Which version did you think was easier?
The Mega Drive.
Yes,
the Mega
Absolutely.
Drive version.
I agree with that. 100%,
They've implemented rubber banding, which allows the computer to not get too far ahead of you when you're playing really the 4-on-4 mode.
Yeah.
And I could make significant progress in the Mega Drive.
The Mega Drive version. I'm glad I was afraid you were going to go the other way. We're going to have a big throwdown because yes. After playing the Amiga version, the Mega Drive version was much simpler.
Yeah.
Now, did it control better? No. Did it look better? Not really. It didn't. It sure as heck didn't sound better. The Amiga version sounds way better.
I agree.
The Mega Drive engine sounds are just no good.
Yeah.
But everything else is virtually identical. I will say I liked how the Amiga implemented. If you're watching the video here, you can see it at the bottom of the screen. It's a lot like the last game. At the bottom of the screen, you've got laps to complete, and you've got the dots of how many dots you've won. On the Mega Drive version, it's on the side. I don't like it on the side. I like it, again, I know it makes it look better, but I like to clearly be able to see the dots and the amount of laps as opposed to the Genesis version where they just have the number.
I agree 100%.
I know this is sort of anal of us, but I mean, I like it better. I like it so I can see it and see what's going on. The Amiga version sounded better, and they looked, I mean, there's probably, the Genesis might have a slight edge in the way it looks. They played, I mean, again, this is a game that plays quite well. Now, I did not get to the tank level on the Mega Drive, so I'm assuming you use a button to fire, but on the Amiga version, you just hit up, and or down, I can't remember, but you hit one, and it works. It doesn't affect your driving in any way, because you're driving with the button for engine. Perfect. Now, there are some things I wish they did differently. When the level starts, it doesn't give you any notice at all. You just go.
Yeah.
The Amiga version, like the Genesis version, that comes up and the cars will flash for a few seconds. So if you're not paying attention, like I remember I was playing one level and I reached up to scratch my neck when the game started.
It's over.
Bam, I'd already lost the light.
Right,
that quick. When you've got 4 players in this, it runs just fine. I mean, there was no slide. And this game graphically is fine. It does what it's supposed to do.
I love games that make you tiny and have everyday objects huge. That's just one of my favorite things in the world. So like this ticks all my buttons. Especially playing the Mega Drive version where I could actually be successful with it. I would love it if somebody would patch this game and do the rebalancing, because in every other respect, the Amiga version is superior.
Well, one of my biggest problems with these games and this game in particular, is the fact that you get so little forward view to see what's coming, which I guess maybe that's the key to the game. And I never got it. I just never liked not having enough notice to see which way I'm going to be turning. However, playing it's one thing about this show. It's games that I could not stand. I've grown to at least tolerate. This is one of them. And I think most of when I played this was on the NES, which I didn't look at the NES version of this.
The NES version looks very much worse. I mean, it looks like an 8-bit game versus 16-bit game.
The control was tight. This game. It's like if you're going to make a game that the Amiga could do, this is it. It's perfect for the Amiga. I like the fact that you get multiple vehicles. I mean, they make a difference. They're quicker.
There's another game that's like this that was on the NES. It's one of Brent's favorites. Do you know what it is? Cobra Triangle.
Oh yeah, the boat. It's a boat game.
Boat and car.
Yeah, I remember
and motorcycle.
Something else I thought was cute when you play the you versus 3 other people levels is when you win a race, you get a micro machine and you got a big case.
I like that a lot.
And it puts it in the case, so you're collecting all the micro machines. That's a good ad thing too, right? So I know this game. Was it this game for the Genesis that had they had a cartridge that had built-in joystick ports for 4-player? I think it was.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
And so if they had the joystick ports built into the cartridge.
That's insane.
I'm pretty sure it was this one. But in terms of the way they play, again, much like it's very similar to Aladdin. That's why I said the guys that picked these games, they must have had an idea because they're both better looking on the console, but they both don't sound as well on the console, and they both play about the same. So what do we prove? Well, the Amiga can, when given the opportunity, can sort of compete with some of these consoles, especially in the 2D realm, and probably really could do better. I mean, you could have made these games look better, but I mean, something like Micro Machines, it looks like it should. I don't think there's any reason to go crazy, on it. As you would imagine, this also reviewed fairly well. Lemon gives it a 7.9, so pretty much, again, like the last game. Amiga Action gave it an 83. Amiga Computing gave it an 80. I think 80 is real low. I think Amiga Force gave it an 89. Amiga Format 90. Amiga Point of View, they're back, 93. Amiga Power 88, and the One gave it an 89. On eBay, I found this. If you want just the disc, $9. I saw a guy selling the box copy for $9.25, and I saw $18. These are all in the UK. Nothing for us. And then I found one in Austria, of all places, for $23. Not too bad. But when I looked at what we were coming up with this week, I was like, I don't know. But actually, it was refreshing. And once again, and we've both killed the Amiga on these platform games, and over the years, we're both guilty of it. But these are two. I mean, this platform game, Aladdin, is a quality platform.
Yeah.
And shouldn't be overlooked in the pantheon of good platformers. There's not a darn thing wrong with it. It plays well and it looks nice. And Micro Machines, it's a different sort of racing game. But I mean, if you're into that sort of that look,
I mean, if you want a top-down racing game, I would say play Supercars first. But if you want one that's got a little bit more charisma, Micro Machines.
This is great for little kids. Although the Amiga version, that's the one thing you're going to have is that it's a more challenging version.
Absolutely,
there's no doubt about that.
All right, Aaron. Just a little plug to all of our listeners. If you'd like to support the show, one of the best things that you can do is write us an iTunes review. If you have not yet, you can do it easily from the web or from inside iTunes itself. That is a thing that really helps boost our popularity. If we can be the first hit on Amiga podcast, that would be huge, especially since there's a lot of like Spanish-speaking podcasts also called the Amigos. So we want to
never going to let that go, are you?
We want to be the number one hit, I guess, for Amiga computer podcast. Last week, Aaron, the Patreon song. We had a lot of winners. Last week's song was California Girls by the Beach Boys. I like to consider myself to have the same vocal chops as Brian Wilson. Really, all the Beach Boys combined. I sort of channel all of them in different ways. And so
I'm not going to say anything about that.
Our winners were Paul Harrington, Paul Kitching, Paul McCartney, Colin 419,
all the Pauls.
Eric Nelson, and Andrea Hucker. Hucker again.
Huck's wife got.
She's got the eagle ears, man. I'm telling you. This week, if you know this song, I also want to welcome, we got a new Patreon supporter last week, Tim Drew. Have you ever heard of The Future Was 8-Bit before?
I have.
Maker of peripherals?
Yeah.
Well, he's behind that operation.
No
he
kidding.
runs that show.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
He's a C64.
We've referenced them in the past.
Yeah, he's a C64 programmer. He developed this device that allows you to run SD cards from a Spectrum. Check this thing out, man. Listen to this.
I like to have that.
It's an adapter that fits into that port in the back.
Yeah.
It gives you joystick ports and an SD card slot.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
Man, we have to look into that.
Yeah.
We've got the spec.
We've got the spec.
Yeah.
So, welcome, Tim. If you know this week's Patreon song, you can send me a message at john@amigospodcast.com with your guess, and I will be happy to read all the correct answers on the air. So here we go.
This is the calm before the storm. You know it's coming.
Tim Drew, Daniel Williams, Robert Edgerton III, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Etter, Rob O'Hara, Howard Nims, Matthew Laramore, Andy Craig, Shanzo, Darren Lomax, Colin 419, Bark Bid, Roland Burke, Andrew Monk, Joe the Zombie, John the Cook, Dan Ross, Leaf, Kellan, Alan Kebab, Chicote, Level, Lord John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRocher, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, The Slow Norris, Stiffison, Sorgard, Mortensen, Edvin Helen, had Blindo 75, Christopher Essel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Folds, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Graham Vebke, Brent Dowdy, Lane Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien Return Vintage, Gary Hucker, C. Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Stiles, Alan Kebab, Anthony Jarvis, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nat, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Kim Tommy, Humbert, Stad, Daniel Winston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warrens, Pixels at Dawn, and Kjolbjorn Barman.
Beautiful, man.
Thank you. So
come inside for some hot cocoa.
We're going a little bit higher class this week.
Is that what we are?
Normal fare.
Well,
normal fare. You got to elevate your viewing habits to guess that one.
Yeah. I got nothing to say.
Next week, Aaron, we're gonna take a turn back into a genre that I know that you like a lot. The role-playing genre. The first-person role-playing genre. Okay. Eye of the Beholder type deal.
Oh.
This is a game. Yeah. This is a game called Black Crypt.
Oh, yes. This is what I've tantalizingly close to wanting to try out, so that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that one.
Absolutely.
Black Crypt, yes.
And we recorded early this week, but next week we should be back at the normal time, and next week, if all goes to plan, we will be joined by two very special guests. We'll be joined by the one and only Ravi Abbott from the Retro Hour. He's making the trip to Atlanta.
Our favorite DJ.
Yep, and he'll be joined by Adam, and I'm not even going to say Adam's last name because I always get Adam Bradley, Adam Battersby, and I think there's even one more that might even be this Adam. They all run together, but Adam from Vintage Computer Festival Southeast in the ATL, he'll also be making the trip up to West Virginia.
Sweet.
And so we're going to have a 4-man team on Amigos next week talking about Black Crypt. Should be fun. We're going to do some special stuff. Make sure you tune in live. It'll be Friday around 5:30 Eastern Time. I do want to thank those of you who... We had a different crowd in the chat room this morning since we're recording in the AM. We got Sean Pascutini.
I love it.
Yeah.
Pascutini.
Absolutely. We got the Flack. Flack is in the chat with us today. Rob O'Hara. Amiga Bong all the way from South Korea. Zutari82 is here. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us in the YouTube chat. Everybody, you're always welcome. Make sure you hit that bell beside the subscribe button.
Matthew Perrone.
Yeah, Matthew Perrone is here. Paul Harrington, he's listening at work. They're all coming out of the woodwork.
We're bringing down efficiency left and right.
So make sure you hit that bell that's next to the subscribe button on YouTube to be notified whenever we go on the air.
Before we go, we should mention and thank everyone we have surpassed the 1,200 mark on YouTube.
Absolutely, that's right.
Who'd have thunk it?
Right.
I never would have thought that.
All right, guys, we will see you all next week for Black Crypt.
Which one? Blah.
Blah.
I want to suck your blood. You're a month late, pal.
Who used to say that?
Every vampire ever.
Oh, that guy, huh? All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Until then,
Adios. So confusing. Yeah. Can you grab me a cold one, man?
I can give you a room temperature one.
That's the best I can do.
Good
enough. That's where I like them.
I'm gonna go get some more coffee.
Yeah. Well, how'd you think that went? Did you lose your mind in the middle of that review of Micro Machines? I was baffled. Why you were going, you're a liar. You're a no good liar. I was like, no, I'm not.
Well, I didn't realize there was a stage select code.
Did you know when you got up, it sounded like someone was like smashing some Rice Krispies underfoot?
My knees,
what
joints.
The hell was that?
I'm old, man.
You sound like Teresa when you got up.
I mean, I've got bad joints. I got bad feet.
What's the level code had to do with that?
Well, because I thought, because you were talking about all the tank level and all this stuff, and I was like, there's no way you got to the tank level in Micro Machines. Because that game is so freaking hard.
I got pretty good at it, man.
So maybe we need to face off in that in some future episode.
Are you kidding me?
And so I was waiting to pounce. I was waiting to call you out for the liar you are.
But what's it have to do with the one-on-one combat light system? You never played that, do you?
The light system is different in the Genesis. I thought the light system
It's exactly the same.
It was exactly the same. I was dead wrong on all counts.
But I was baffled. You sounded like me. I was like, what are you doing?
I'm always trying to inject some controversy into the podcast.
Why? This is not a controversial show. This is not. You're not a daytime talk show host. I know we're shooting early, but geez, man.
We're skipping Shannon.
No, I don't know. Get out. Go get some coffee, for God's sake. What's going on, fellas? Who's at work amongst you? I love it. We're gonna do some. What are we doing? I think we're doing. What's the name of that other show? Insert Disc 2. Very good. We're lucky here in the States. They let us take a day off. I did mention that. Big Bong guy. I did mention that when you sit there, I'll tell you something, man. So I let the game come on. I'm sitting there, I'm listening to it, and all of a sudden, the vocals creep in like a waking dream. I was like, whoa! I couldn't believe it, man. I loved it. What are we doing? Insert disc and do?
Yep, this is the thing, man.
What do we got? What are we doing this week? I don't know. What are you pointing at?
I'm pointing at. Look at that paper right there.
But I don't want to do this as an Insert Disc 2. It's its own show. It's its own show.
It's Insert Disc 2. Why would it not be Insert Disc 2? The arcade one-up thing was an Insert Disc 2. Everything we've ever done that's blown up has been an Insert Disc 2.
Because I wanted to produce this as its own thing.
That's fine. But I don't have anything to talk about for Insert Disc 2.
And you never mentioned that one time. Not once. Not once did you say that. You just made it up in your mind.
Because every show we've ever done down here that's been special has been an Insert Disc 2. We've never not done anything that wasn't an Insert Disc 2.
I don't guess it matters what we call it.
It doesn't matter.
Except that you post Insert Disc 2 tonight. How was I supposed to heavily produce something today?
We don't have to post it tonight. Insert Disc 2, it's its own thing. Nobody's hanging by a thread being like, oh man, Insert Disc 2 didn't come out tonight. What am I going to do?
This should be the show. Insert Disc 2 should be how you just spring random things on me without telling me anything.
Like I said, if you want to talk about something else for Insert Disc 2, we can. I just don't have any topics.
Well, that is a problem. I thought you were getting coffee.
I was, but I ran out.
You ran out of coffee?
I didn't have time.
What's in that? Seltzer water?
Mm-hmm.
Have you not learned your lesson? I'm guessing this is of a better quality than
that was diet tonic water. Oh, that was nasty. I finally threw out that lemon juice. Remember that lemon juice from like 8 years ago?
Yeah.
It was so nasty on the bottom. It was all like congealed and like it was bad. I think there was some ammonia on the bottom. I don't know.
Does that happen?
Is that what happens when lemon juice grows up? Does it become ammonia? Kind of like how monkeys become chimps?
Does it become ammonia, or are you just making that up?
I don't know. I always wondered, like, where does ammonia come from? I always thought it was like lemon juice when you leave it out too long.
I'm not going to believe you, and I'll tell you why. Your tracker this morning is a little lapsed. So, no, I don't think that's what happens. I think you've lost your mind.
What I was thinking is, it's like you got, like, grape juice, wine, then, like...
Uh-oh, that's Tree's mom. Hold on a second. Hello. No, I'm doing my show. we're gonna go and do. We're actually in between right now. I'm gonna as soon as we finish up, I'm gonna go home, pick up the gang, and we're gonna go out and run around. That's okay. No, I mean we're you caught me at a good time. I did. I slept quite well, thanks. He went to bed about 9:30. Yeah, and he was up at 7 at least. Yeah, so yeah, but he did fine. And Teresa was knocked out pretty early, so it was quiet. Actually, I went down to Mom and Dad's for a couple hours after they went to sleep and hung out down there for a while. So it was nice. They're beat down. They're beat down, but that was a lot. That was a lot of work, you know. So they're gonna be shut in for a couple days probably. Yeah, it sure was. That's okay, Granny. Don't worry about it. All right, see you later. Bye bye. All right, bud. Let's do this thing. Amazing. I heard that. All right. Let me get my other sheet of fun.
Why did you de-mic?
I was on the phone.
But people can hear you just as well when you're...
I didn't want people to hear me being loud or whatever. I don't know why I did nothing. Why do you ask me questions? You know the answer for.
Paul, I have not booked my hotel yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to go with the Prince of Wales Hotel or I might get an Airbnb. I always enjoy doing the Airbnb thing. If I can get one pretty close to the event itself.
How do you want to kick this off, Boat? You want to?
So are we going to do this, or
we might as well do it. We might as well do it. I got this. All these documentations here.
And maybe after we do this, I'll be thinking in my mind of something we can do for intro.
Oh Lord, help us. Okay. And we're gonna kind of shoot through these pretty quick. But you've played a good chunk of these, so I want you to comment on the ones you don't.
Okay. Don't ever ask me like, what do you think of this one? If I've got something to say,
how long did it take you to beat Alone in the Dark, Bo?
I'll say it. Yeah. And I'll just jump in now. Because you're going to be talking more. Oh no, it won't work. Because like some of those that are on there, you're going to be substituting for other things, right? I was going to say I could announce each game, and that would give me something to do.
These notes are kind of hard to follow.
That's why I was going to say it might be.
I'll get you in. Okay. A lot of these you're going to have. I mean, you know more about a lot of these than most people.
Well, we'll see. Okay,
listen, you do. Just do it.
Okay, here we go.
You're gonna open it and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Steve, yes, the stream is going to be uploaded for a later viewing. You won't have missed anything. It's actually going to be, if you're subscribed on YouTube, if you were notified that the stream is archived as soon as it gets done processing on YouTube. Yeah.
We need to do a show where we just sit here and bicker for an hour. That could be the show.
That seems like
every show. And I bet we could come up with some material on the fly.
Absolutely. We could just bring up the Apple thing again.
Our arguments are stupid. They're not even I can't even get...
You're not telling me.
I can't get passionate about them because you come up with the goofiest crap. It's like working with you remind me of a guy who hosts like a reality show. You know, like I'll come in and sit down and it's like, you know, hey, you ready to do the show? It's like, sure. By the way, did I mention you hit the live button? We're doing the show in the news. It's like, what? It's like, are you going to wear this pointy hat or I'm going to throw paper wads at you? Did I tell you we're doing today's show? It's on fashion and design. I'm just like, what?
I try and make it interesting for you.
And then while I'm panicking, you sit over like this. Watch it. Going like, what a weasel. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. It's time, Aaron. The people demand it. It's coming soon. It's the mini PC.
PC Mini.
The PC Mini. So, this PC Mini thing is blowing up all over the internet. Some people are for it. Some people are against it. Some people don't know what to think. We're here to tell you what to think.
That's right.
These are the 30 games that must be on the PC Mini.
We demand it. We demand it. And before we get into it, I just briefly want to say that we touched on the PC Mini 2 or 3 episodes ago, Boat. And we weren't, I wouldn't say we were positive about it. We were just we just talked about it. We were like, eh. But I've sort of turned the corner on this thing a little bit. And one thing that did that to me is the fact that this thing got a lot of, like, people are playing this thing for laughs. Oh, the PC Mini, now they're making a mini of everything. It's hilarious. I don't see why it's so hilarious. I think they're all hilarious. I don't think it's so hilarious that the PC Mini, everybody laughs at that one, but everyone's super cool with the NES Mini. It's just the mini of games. People have memories of DOS. You know, people have played games on DOS. A lot of people that are making fun of this are young and stupid, and they need to be taught a lesson, and that's what we're here for. These are the 30 games that I demand are included on the PC Mini, and I think we picked out some good games. And I'll also mention that while I don't think these are the best 30 games in the history of DOS, I don't think they're the best 30 games of all time. I thought this was a decent collection of mostly PC-centric games that give you a flavor for the PC over the years, and that are still be pretty fun to play today. So with that in mind, and we're going to run and shake through these things in a hurry because there's 30 of these bad boys, and we're going to just run through them just real quick. So, and these are in no particular order, Boat, all right? So first out of the gate, I would put in as the first game SimCity, released in '93. SimCity is a game where you build cities. It was the big-time player, and the series is still around. Did you play any SimCity back in the day?
So, I did. I played some SimCity back in the day.
What was that?
Before we started the show, I said no matter what, never ask me if I played any of these games.
But you've played SimCity?
You threw me for a loop there,
But
man.
I knew you'd played SimCity.
I've played SimCity before.
Right.
SimCity is great because it was the first God game that was very popular. Now, I'm sure there's going to be people that come out of the woodwork and say, it wasn't the first God game, it wasn't the first city building game, but it was the first one that gained some major traction. And the thing that made it cool was that it was very easy to get into. It was very easy to understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. You've got your residential zones, you got your commercial zones, you got your industrial zones. You put a power plant down, you start putting zones down, stuff starts to happen. You see these things change and grow, you see traffic on the streets. It's an awesome game. It deserves to be on the PC Mini.
I agree. So next, now we're trying to get a kind of a wide swath of games. So we got to have a sports game in there. Now, DOS gaming back in the day wasn't necessarily known for its top shelf sports game, but I picked one, and actually we agreed on this one, World Class Leaderboard Golf, 1989. This had digitized sound. It looked like golf. It played a nice game. It had the official golf meter that you use for every golf game thereon.
Looks like he hit the tree, Jim.
A great game. That's all you need to say. That's all you need to say. So, number 4. Number 3, I should say. Jazz Jackrabbit. Now, if you played shareware games or games from Apogee and whatnot back in the day, Jazz Jackrabbit, it was the PC answer to Sonic. It's been described as Sonic with guns, Boat, which I think is a pretty apt description. You play Jazz Jackrabbit, a green bunny with a headband and a Uzi or a machine gun. You run around jumping on stuff, killing it. Fun game. A good little platformer. Do I say this is better than Sonic? No, but I thought it was, in terms of action games on the PC, and you've got to admit the PC wasn't known for its action games early on. This game I thought stood out pretty well. Number 4, and by the way, these are in no particular order as I mentioned. We're going to go with Wolfenstein 3D. It sort of started the whole first-person Doom-ish type game. It was a fun game. It was based on the original, it was vaguely based on the original Castle Wolfenstein games from way back in the DOS days. And in this game, you run around killing Nazis. Pretty simple stuff, a lot of fun. Did you ever have a copy of this one?
I think that this one definitely deserves a place because it's such a seminal title.
Sure.
Everything that is, Call of Duty, Battlefield, all of that stems from this one title.
Sure. Next on the docket, number 5. And this was we discussed this one, and I went ahead and picked what is considered the most popular one, King's Quest IV. You have to have a King's Quest game on there. This one was from '88, and one of the reasons I put this on there, aside from the fact that it's popular amongst fans, is that it was they had refined the interface. It had nice VGA graphics. It looked good, and it was a more refined version of the King's Quest games. Now, you played the original King's Quest, as I recall.
I played the original King's Quest. This one is notable because it's the first game in the series to have a female protagonist.
Oh, okay. Very good. So, see, there you go. So, moving down the line. And this one you had to have on the list, otherwise you'd be murdered. And it's number 6, Doom. Doom! I don't think we have to go into Doom too much, but when this thing came out, it was blowing the mind of everyone. I remember playing this over at the Chud's house. He goes, "You got to see this game." He loaded it up. We were blown away. Couldn't believe how awesome it looked. I can't explain. It was one of those titles that just could not exist. But I'm sure you didn't see it until way after it came out originally.
Well, it's funny because I remember how big Doom was. Mostly because of the fact that it was really the first. I think this was the original Doom. Did it have the multiplayer mode built in?
It absolutely
mode?
did. Yeah.
And I remember all these different places they would have computers set up where you could do multiplayer Doom, and these were like places in the mall where they'd rent space out. They'd have all these computers lined up. So it was the game that first kicked off the whole deathmatch concept.
And hopefully on the PC Mini there will be some way to do some sort of multiplayer, which would be that's another thing people hadn't thought about. That'd be kind of neat to have the ability to multiplayer.
Yeah.
Number 7. Now we talked. Boat suggested Zork, which is a great suggestion. I went ahead and wrote in Zork Trilogy, which was released in '86. That's the first 3 Zorks: Zork, the Great Underground Empire; Zork 2, the Wizard of Frabaz; and Zork 3, the Dungeon Master. These were text games, and these were the text games of their day, weren't they, Boat? I mean, these were. You can play them anywhere; they're great. But for a DOS system, these should be included. You got to have some text games in there to get a feel of what it was like to be playing games in that era. And the Zork games were some of the first games released for almost every system, so they're great games. So number 8, and I put in a game that has gained popularity recently, but at the time it was sort of overlooked, which was System Shock. Released in '94. It's a first-person action-adventure game developed by an outfit called Looking Glass, and it's got a 3D engine. It's sort of like Doom, except in an RPG format. It's really impressive. And back in the day when this came out, it got rave reviews. I'm guessing you probably haven't seen this title, but it's a really solid title, and its legend has grown over the years, and it's an excellent title to include on the PC Mini. Number 9, you got to have a shooter on this thing, Boat. And we both called this one.
Now, when you say shooter, you're talking about a shoot 'em up, right?
That's right, a shoot 'em up game. It's Raptor Call of the Shadows. It's a pretty darn good looking top down shooter. It's standard fare. It didn't reinvent the wheel, but the DOS format was really starved for these sorts of games. They just didn't see them that often. And this was a really fun game. I remember playing this back in the day and really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for shooters, early shooters on the PC, you couldn't do much better than that one. Number 10. It's funny this list should come up because we just covered this on my on the sister show, ARG Presents, and it's One Must Fall 2097. The robot or giant robot fighting game.
Now, do you think of all the fighting games on the PC platform, this is the one to include?
Absolutely.
You better make a pretty good case, because there are going to be a lot of people that disagree with that.
Sure. Well, let me ask you, just for fun, what would you have included like in its stead?
A game that people have heard of.
And I'm looking at PC-centric games here.
Rise of the Robots.
Oh my God! I'm not going to dignify that.
People know what that game is. No one's ever heard of this thing.
One Must Fall 2097 is a great game, and if you ask anyone what their favorite DOS era fighting game is, I can guarantee you they're going to say this. There's nothing even close. Now, are there ports and excellent ports of Mortal Kombat and even Street Fighter going to decent port? Yes, but they're not PC centric, and also. This game, I would stand up against just about any of those fighting games. I mean, it is deep, it's fun, and it holds up. So, yes, despite your protests, it's great. Number 11, a game, I remember my buddy quit the Amiga over this game. This is the game that made him leave, and it was Magic Carpet. Magic Carpet, a very visually stunning game for its time. Did not come out in the Amiga, and that was his exit. He went and got himself a PC so he could play it. Do you remember this one at all?
You've told me about this game several times, and I know that it was a graphical powerhouse.
It was. It was a beautiful game, and you fly around on a magic carpet and shoot stuff. It's fun. It's a really neat game. I mean, if you looked at it in today's eyes, it almost has a tech demo feel to it, but I mean, it was a quantum
Was it
leap.
the Shadow of the Beast of the PC?
No, it was way better than that, but it wasn't as pretty. Well, I guess it was. Now, this is a controversial inclusion, and I'll admit I've waffled on this one between 3 games. But I'm going to put in 1980s Rogue. Now, Rogue is Rogue. It's pretty much the same on almost every system. It's a lot like Zork. It was sort of, everyone had one, right? It's a dungeon exploration game. It's as basic a game as a game can get. Have you ever had a cup of coffee with a Rogue game in your days?
Absolutely, I love Rogue.
I thought so, and so I knew you'd probably be down with the clown on this one.
Yeah. Now you've got to put in the original with the ASCII art.
That's it. That's it. 1980. That's the one. And again, I know people are like, "Oh, who's going to pay for this for the PC Mini?" You've got to have some flavor in here.
Well,
and it's a game that holds up.
Let me ask you a question. You've sort of broken your own rule here.
Yes.
Because what year did Rogue come out?
1980.
What year did the PC come out? 1981.
Okay, but it was an early adopter.
You can't put it in
I can do it, and I will. And it is. A PC version was fine. So, now this one was a tough one, Bo. Number 13. And it's funny, we both mentioned this one, and I was right there with you. I have included in this one, number 13, TIE Fighter, 1994. Now, there was some discussion amongst me and my consultant, the Chud, on this one, but we both agreed that TIE Fighter was the better of the two.
I hope every time you say the Chud, you put a picture of him up.
I should.
Yeah.
TIE Fighter was it was just what you think it is. It was simulated you driving around a TIE Fighter, doing missions. The original game in the series was X-Wing, which was also very good. Another game that I was longing for on the Amiga that never came. And TIE Fighter was just better. It was just a better game. Now, eventually they released X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, which was really good, but it was past my limits on years for this, so I didn't choose it. But TIE Fighter, a great game. And I'm guessing, did you ever have a cup of coffee?
I've never played either of these
They're
games.
very good games.
I've heard nothing but good things about them.
They're really good. And again, this is when the PC was starting to really get its stride in the gaming world. Now, number 14, and I had to put this one in because it's a very popular game of its day. Warcraft, 1994. This is Warcraft Human is in the Works, real-time strategy game by Blizzard. Of course, this ended up, good Lord, think of the amount of money that this series has spawned over the years. Really, I think the top title in the Warcraft series is probably regarded as Warcraft 2. I always heard that was the one. But Warcraft was a pretty good game. Even I played it. It's a real-time strategy game, so it shows you how good that was. And a lot of fun, and a moneymaker. Blizzard's still around. They're doing pretty good. I recommend it. Number 15, another one that it's funny, we wrote our lists up separately, and we included so many similar ones. This is another one, Oregon Trail. You got to have it. You've got to have it. It's aside from the fact that it's an educational game that you could put on the PC Mini, so you got that going for you. It's also great. It held up, over the years. I just bought my girlfriend a little Oregon Trail standalone handheld last year, and she plays with it. It's a fun game. You learn something. This one's been around forever. It came out in '71, and it's been put on everything. Great game about surviving the Oregon Trail. It's a must. This is one, number 16, that you reminded me of, and I hadn't included on my list, which was Battle Chess. Got to have a good chess game. PC was known for that. That's one of the things they used to have, a Chess Master 2000 or 3000 or whatever. Battle Chess was the one that gave you the pretty graphics.
Right.
You could sit around and watch these guys. We would just move guys into position just to watch the battles as the two chess pieces would fight it out. Great game. It also offered network play, which was something that was not every game did back in those days. So I always thought that was kind of cool. Now, here's a wacky one here, Boat. We wanted to include an Ultima because Ultima was a big part of the PC and the Apple as well coming out. And I went with Ultima 6. Much like the King's Quest, this is sort of the one that everyone regards as the peak of the series. It had a huge map. It had VGA graphics. It had sound support for all the new sound cards and stuff, so it looked pretty. It had a good plot. It sounded good.
You've got to have an Ultima game in the collection.
Yeah, no absolutely. Did you play any of the Ultimas at all?
I played Ultima 4 without the documents and without the maps and was completely lost.
Oh, man. So, and much like the Ultimas, what else did you have to have in here? You've got to have a Bard's Tale game, which is another game. C64 had a good run on it, and so did the PC. And I went ahead and just put the original Bard's Tale, 1985. The game had a lot going for it, and especially in the era, 3D graphics. They had a good feel for dungeoneering, crawling around. It was a lot of fun, and it had it was for the older games. It had a good modern sort of feel to it, a good flavor to it, and plus it's Bard's Tale. It's another that had kicked off a tremendous series. Now, number 19. Again, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but this game was huge on the PC, and that was a lot of fun. And that was Star Control 2. Great campaign mode. It crushed the first one in that regard, which was admittedly was very sparse. And then just fighting your ships was a lot of fun too. To go through and just have a little melee, a lot of fun, and it's another one that holds up great. Star Control 2, the Urquan Masters. I recommend that. That's another one that must be on the system. Here's one we agreed on straight away. Number 20, Maniac Mansion. Maniac Mansion. What can you say about this one? Another one that just it lives forever. The lore of. I know you're a big fan. I believe you played at completion.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did a very long Amigos play. It was like 5 hours.
5 hours. That is dedication.
And that was with a walkthrough. We were challenged.
This was out in '87. So it's funny. To me, I thought it was older. To be honest with you, I was surprised. 21, and this is another RPG. That's all. It's a favorite of mine. Now, I wanted to put one of the Dungeons & Dragons games in. There was the Gold Box series, whatever. And this is sort of controversial, and I'll even kind of bow down if someone has one that they thinks better. But I always liked it, and I'm stuck in Eye of the Beholder from '91. This is a water-deep adventure where you get hired, and you're trudging around the sewers and stuff. You build a party up, which normally I don't like playing more than one character, but it's cool the way you do it. It's got that sort of old-school 3D aspect, cool the sound, and it's great.
Very atmospheric. I've watched some Let's Plays of that.
It is. Now, Boat, here's one from early '95. Most of the development was in '94. Is Descent. This thing came out of nowhere when it came out, and it was making people sick. It was so smooth and realistic in the way you spin and turn. It's a 3D sort of a spaceship game. It's a real bizarre game in terms of the way when I say 3D, people weren't ready for this game, I don't think. It was so smooth and it was quick.
So it kind of took the first-person shooter concept, but it made it so where there was no floor and there was no ceiling.
Right. It was real. Even today, it was you play it. It make you ill. Now I was more into Descent Free Space, which is sort of the space shooter that was retro, but it came out later. But the original Descent's really good. Here's one we both agreed on right out of the gate, Boat. Number 23, Civilization, the original. Did they streamline it? Yes. Did they make marginal efforts to extend it? So yes, but I mean, I don't know if they ever made it better than the original. It was great, a lot of fun. You learned something, and it was just the concept. Was brilliant behind it, and a great game to play. Multiplayer, single player, top shelf, and the PC version was pretty good. So, number 24. This is another first-person game that I love, and this is sort of a cult classic, Boat. Rise of the Triad. It took everything that Doom did and turned it sideways. It had platforming elements. It had bizarre powers. The plot was real freaking weird, culty, Illuminati-type stuff. Just a bizarre game, but a lot of fun.
What year did this one come out?
This one came out in '94.
Okay, so right at the cusp of the cutoff.
That's right. In fact, this was right at the cusp. But a great game and a lot of fun. And it's another one where the legend of it came out. People were like, this is weird. And its legend has grown over the years. Now, number 25, this is another one we were in agreement on. You got to have it. If you're going to have Oregon Trail for the kids, you got to have a little something for Dad. Leisure Suit Larry, and you might as well just put the original in there.
Yeah.
1987. It's a graphical adventure game where you play Leisure Suit Larry, who's looking for love.
That's
to be
right.
Courteous about it. He's a scumbag. He's a greasy lounge guy. This game kicked off a massive series, and this was a good one. I played it on several platforms, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And it was clever. A lot of good comedy in it. 26, as we near the end here, and this will go by two names. We're going to call it XCOM or UFO Enemy Unknown. This came out in '94, the Micro Approach Classic. I was real close on this one between this or Syndicate. They were both excellent games, but this one edged it out. I will say the PC version of Syndicate is top shelf.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is good. But this is a nutty game where you are basically you're trying to defend the planet against an alien invasion or UFO attack. We had more than a cup of coffee with this one, and it's an interesting game. It's one of these types of games where I actually had a good time playing it, which is not necessarily my bag, but it was a lot of fun. 27, another one we agreed on fully. 1990s Wing Commander. The original Wing Commander. Was it the best of the series? No. They refined the series quite a bit over the years, but it was a crowning achievement in its time, and it still holds up and plays pretty well. And on a proper PC, it runs quite nicely. Wing Commander is a 3D space shooter, but with a lot of atmosphere, a lot of beautiful graphics, a lot of awesome music. There was a lot of panache and flash in it. Great game, and when it came out, it really blew people's minds. Huge, too, at the time. 28. We're going to go with Alone in the Dark, 1992. Now, Alone in the Dark was I was a big, and still am a big H.P. Lovecraft fan, and this thing came out and basically effectively put you in the role of an investigator in a Lovecraftian-style mansion. And it's a let's go with exploration, action, adventure game where you take your little professor through the house and try to avoid or kill anything you come across. Very atmospheric. It used a system, a graphical 3D system that had not yet been seen, and it was very innovative at the time. When you look at it now, you're like, oh, look how old it is. But I mean, it's still a fun game, and probably the best of all the Alone in the Dark, and certainly better than the god-awful movie. Less said about that, the better. So, 29. I'm going to go with Myst, which came out in 93. This is one of those games that was very polarizing, Boat. Have you ever given Myst a shot?
Oh yeah, when we first got our computer with the CD-ROM drive, it seemed like it came with it. I don't know if it came with it or not, but I know that we got it very shortly after.
Sure. When the CD-ROMs came out, they usually came with like what were the games that the Myst was the big game.
They all came with the Encarta Encyclopedia.
The Seventh Guest.
Yeah, the
was
Seventh
another
Guest.
one.
Yeah. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
So did you actually get into Myst at all?
Yeah, I played it. I thought it was cool. You know, now it has not aged well. But at the time, it was the first time you'd ever really seen photorealism in games.
Sure.
Even though the screens were static for the most part, the music was fantastic. You know, the puzzles were challenging, but not too challenging, at least early on for me.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of the seminal releases on the PC.
It's an atmospheric game. And what they did with those static screens is it was very clever, is they would record a transition of whichever direction you would choose, and it would sort of seamless that it would transition. So it was the illusion of an animation at that point. Then they made 1 million of these things, and Myst, one of the greatest selling video games of all time. It made a fortune. So if you're into that sort of thing, there you go. And then rounding out the list at number 30, I'm going to go down with Masters of Orion. It's a turn-based strategy game that came out in 93, and it was a very popular title. It spawned a series of those master games. It's got a little colonization. It's got a little city building. It's got a little diplomacy in it. It was a big series that you don't hear many people talk about now. But I think the inclusion of it on this list is mandatory. It was really good. Now, let's go over some, just since we've hit 30, let's go over a couple almost got there but didn't, and some stuff that we disagreed on. Bo, you had mentioned Lost Vikings on the list. A good choice. I thought that was a pretty fun game, so I could see that one going on. Silent Service, the submarine game, which is a lot of fun. Now, I preferred 688 Attack Sub myself, but that's just me. You mentioned a game called Dope Wars, which I had not played, but I think I've played like the online version of that. Had you ever actually played Dope Wars?
So I played Dope Wars mostly on a TI-85.
Really?
But it did get a PC release, and I thought it would just, if you're looking for variety, there's nothing else like those Wars series of games.
Lemmings is another one. I was trying to pick something that was mostly PC centric, although it didn't totally succeed. But I always think of Lemmings as more of an Amiga game. But
it was an Amiga game if you had an Amiga.
Yeah,
but who had an Amiga?
Right, but the
Nobody.
PC version is fine.
Yeah.
I played it many times, and it's a great game. It's another great title. Of course, we mentioned X-Wing as one. Boat, another one you mentioned. It's another great game. Was Monkey Island, which would be perfectly acceptable game. I liked Monkey Island a lot. Of course, we played the Amiga version of that on the show. Another one my buddy mentioned was Command and Conquer, which was it was in the, by my standards of 95 or sooner. It made the cutoff barely. Command and Conquer was a great game, and you could absolutely put it in there and transpose it for Masters of Orion or one of the other games. I broke it down, and you basically had... we only had one sports game on the list. We had about 8 action games. I think there was like 7 strategy games, 4 first-person shooters, 3 or 4 graphic adventures, 5 role-playing games, a couple of flight sim type games.
So overall, a pretty balanced list other than sports games. And I think that you'll agree with me that we didn't play a whole lot of sports games on the PC.
Well,
there might be some awesome ones out there that we just never got a handle on.
If you're going to include sports games, because I thought about this, I mean, you could include stuff like Earl Weaver or the game series, Summer and Winter Games, which they're fine titles, but a lot of those titles, I think more of the C64 than I do the PC. And there were a couple that were like Bard's Tale. It's more of a C64 game, but had a PC release. And I was trying to be more PC centric. I guess the point of all this mishmash is we rattled off 30 or 35 games that could be included on the PC Mini. And there are plenty more. And we cut off at 95. I had a strict cutoff because that's when Windows 95 came out. And so then you get into and in the demonstration for the PC Mini, they showed them playing Quake, which came out, I think, in 96 years later. So that will open up a whole new area of games. But
we might have to do a follow-up of, if 95 to when would you say the next era of PC gaming ended? If we say that the first era was 81 to 95, really, I think you could probably break it down to say the CGA EGA era, so it'd be like 81 to say 89 or so, right?
Yeah.
And then 90, 94. What do you think that next era would be?
Well, when Windows came out, I mean, no one made games specifically. I mean, there were a couple, but no one made games for Windows 3.11, let's say. When Windows 95 came out and they had that unifying platform, then you started seeing games made exclusively for Windows. It used to make us mad, to be honest with you. But I'd say probably about 96 or 97, or even if you're being generous, we'll say 98 when Windows 98 came out. Then you saw a lot of games made specifically for Windows. So there's that, between 95 and 98, there's sort of that transition period.
Yeah, I think, beyond that, it might be worthwhile to actually just start grouping games by resolution. What was the max res this game could output? And that would give you a pretty good era jump. Because otherwise, you can't really say, well, Windows 98 was not exactly like a watershed moment in gaming.
Well, the way I look at it, here's my philosophy on this particular list. The PC Mini is not going to have a Windows license. Okay, so therefore, I didn't want to have anything in it that would have needed Windows.
Right.
So everything else I disregarded.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Now, again, they've put Quake out there, so one would assume this thing can handle. I mean, who knows what's in it? I think it's an ARM processor, someone said, so they could clearly handle stuff much more advanced than this. But I contend that if you stick to this era, and you will appeal to the people that would buy a product like this to play these games. For the most part, they hold up. They're easy to play, and you're not going to be, because no one's going to buy the PC Mini to play the PC version of Mortal Kombat 2.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to need stuff that you're not going to play any other place, or very seldomly are going to play. And I think that's what I took into account when I was compiling this list. So that's the list. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments. There's no wrong answer, really. It's just my personal list, and Boat, we compiled something together. If you have a suggestion, I would love to hear it. And maybe somewhere down the line, once the PC Mini gets crowdfunded, we can talk to the guys behind it and see their reasoning behind what they chose. It'll be interesting. I'm sure that not all these games, and maybe very few, are going to make their list, depending on what they're after. But when you look at this list, and I'll close with this, Boat, what ruled PCs in that era? role-playing games, strategy games, flight sims, those type of games. Action games, again, as I mentioned before, were not something that the PC excelled at for the majority of that era.
First-person shooters.
That's
also.
right. Yeah, towards the end.
Yeah.
And so those are the games you want to include. Those are the games people want to play. Those are the games they grew up with. And
I think it's important to
fun.
include, basically the PC giving it its best shot with something like Jazz Jackrabbit, but that was not why a lot of people were tuning in.
Right. And I mean, for example, I saw a lot of people talk about Commander Keen, that series. And if I was going to include a Keen, it'd be Keen Dreams. I thought that was the best. But I mean, I just didn't think those were that good a game, So, and Jazz Jackrabbit I thought was a better game. So there you go. Anyway, that's all I got, Bo.
All right. So we're going to stop that. And I'm going to go use the bathroom. And I've got a topic for Insert Disc 2.
What'd you think of that?
Oh, that was great. You can talk to the chat. They're still there.
They did have Incredible Machine for DOS, from what I read. I actually thought about that one, Amiga Bong. Thank you. I'm going to try to, mix in some video on that. I know this is an Amiga-centric podcast, obviously, but this has been a rough week for retro gaming, man. The Nerd came out and killed the Amiga, and then the PC Mini's been getting killed, and it's like they're mocking an entire generation of games. It's not fair. There were plenty of good games in the DOS days. You had to dig through to find them. It just irritates me. You guys know how I am about that sort of thing. And and why pick on stuff? Like I said, it's everyone's perfectly fine with the NES Mini coming out, but when the PC Mini comes out, it's a Mini too much. There's too many of these things. This one's crap. There's no way it'll be any good. Well, I humbly disagree. So I'll be interested to see what people think about it. Here, bud, I'm gonna trot over there and we're not gonna record it super long. I told the crew I'd be home by noon.
What I found.
Oh yeah, I told you I've got that. I mean, we could do it.
Yeah,
Oh man.
Oh.
How long that would go, Bodie?
Half an hour.
Oh, that's perfect. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted. Did I rifle through them too quick?
No, I think it was fine, and especially when you put the footage on top and stuff, it's going to be great.
Okay.
Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, we're going to do I'm in the neon. We're going to do a quick Insert Disc 2 put out this evening, and then we're going to hang it up for today. I will be streaming a little bit later today, probably in about, I don't know, sometime, some Black Crypt, so for the Amiga. So if anybody wants to tune in and watch me play some Black Crypt for the first time, I'm going to get all the documents and stuff ready so I don't feel completely lost. Especially if you've played Black Crypt. I'd love to have you on the stream so you can give me some advice. I'm in the midst of ripping my DVD collection right now, and so I'll be doing that. Actually, I don't know if I'll be streaming and doing it. I'm not sure how processor intensive that DVD ripping is, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
All right. I can get behind you.
That's all right. I forgot I had this Pinball Hall of Fame Gottlieb collection.
Yeah, I've got that on the Xbox. Okay.
Yeah, Rob, I have a feeling that if it's not out of the box, it will probably become hackable very soon afterwards.
The real bummer about the PC Mini is it's just going to be another ARM device, and I would be so much more enthusiastic if it was like a 486 or a Pentium. I mean, like on a chip or something. That'd be so much more fun, And if they could actually do it to where you could put peripherals on it, which again, I know this is a limited audience, this is a pipe dream, but it would be so much fun to be able to get your old game sticks out and stuff and plug in there. It'd be a lot of laughs. And I mean, again, much like all these minis to me, you're just emulating something that I could just take a Pi out and, or a PC or do anything and play most of these games. I mean, the convenience of it, I'll grant you, because unlike the NES, where it's a lot easier, setting this stuff up was a pain in the butt.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
all right, so here we go.
You could tell me the topic?
Yep, I'm going to tell you the topic when we start the show.
All right.
Why did that X pop up? What was that from?
X.
So, I saw, it's Black Friday. There's lots of deals to be had out there.
I hope.
You're going out later today.
As soon as this show's over, I'm out.
What would you say if I told you that they are literally giving away Xbox 360s today?
I saw a blurb on Discord, I believe, about this.
So you can walk into GameStop, I believe, right now, and buy an Xbox 360E or an Xbox 360 X or S. These are the late model releases of the Xbox 360.
Yeah.
You can buy one for $70 and they will give you a $70 Visa gift card.
Yeah, yeah.
So what does that say about the value of consoles going forward? Do you think that the era of collectible consoles is over?
Well, it's a good deal for starters. I have 2 Xbox 360s and a third that doesn't work, and so I don't need one, but it's tempting to go get one for effectively nothing. I guess you could buy one, take the gift card, and buy another one, and then keep going, just
doing infinite Xboxes.
One thing you need to consider is these are still being produced, so there's that. Secondly, you're talking about the Xbox 360 is one of the highest selling consoles of all the times. So it's not like a CDI or something. There's tons of them out there, and tons of spare parts too. So. Do I think these are ever going to be collectible? Sure. But it will probably take a while. I mean, I went out and bought a PS2 early in the year for $20 bucks. I think it was 20 or 25 bucks. I didn't even mean to get it. Took it home, hacked it, put a hard drive in it, and it was great. It's fun. And that's, again, the PS2 was the most, I think it was the highest selling console of all time, maybe for the Wii. I'm not sure the Wii passed it, but you know what I mean.
It sold very well.
Wii's the same way. You can get them anywhere. These are all modern consoles, though. There was a time for many years that, I mean, to this day, you can go out and get a Genesis anywhere. For practically, you're under $50. You could probably get one, all right? So someday the Genesis will be more rare than it is now, but it's not rare now. A lot of these systems are only rare because there weren't that many, Even the NES or Super Nintendo, which go for not a ton, but they go for more, but they're not rare. They're not hard to find. Now, go out and find yourself a Pippin. Well, then you got problems because there's so few. So I think the number produced dictates the amount of money they're worth to a certain degree. Of course, the popularity.
I was going to say, so how much of it, because obviously the NES sold way more than the Genesis did. The NES was the highest selling console of all time, I think, until the PS2.
I didn't realize there were that many more Genesis, or that many more Nintendos than there were Genesis.
Yeah, okay. And so obviously part of what you say is true, but what is it about the systems that are more expensive that there's a lot of, do you think makes them more valuable?
Nintendo is a popular product that's still in existence. Nintendo's a little bit like Disney. Some people go out and get every Disney film, all right, and no matter what they are, because they like Disney, or they've bought into that brand, all right. And let's face facts: who won that console war with the NES and Master System? The NES. Why did it win? It's perceived to have better games and it had maybe a better control or whatever, but it won. The winner is popular, and so therefore the popular winner is going to be more popular than the unpopular loser. All right.
That sort of shoots your other argument in the foot, though, because the Pippin was definitely the unpopular loser.
Well, the Pippin obviously was an extreme. But who was it competing against? Roy, who knows? I mean, that's an extreme case, and you know that, Bode.
Well, okay, let's look at the CDI or the 3DO. Those machines are vastly more expensive than the winners.
That's true, but the numbers were smaller. They're incredibly small, and so that makes a huge difference. I mean, you got to think the NES is zillions of them out there, slews. Even like Master Systems, there's tons of them. So the numbers, I'd say the numbers are probably the biggest mover. But popularity certainly plays a part, and certainly with games where there's a much wider gap, popularity and rep play a bigger role.
If you had to look for a dark horse collectible console, let's say from the last 10 years, everything released in the last 10 years, what do you think 25 years from now is going to be the most expensive console?
In the last 10 years?
So we're going back to 2008.
I think it's pretty obvious. For me, it's probably going to be the Wii U. The Wii U still commands a pretty decent price. It's between the Wii, it's the ugly stepchild between the Wii and the Switch. And which is a Switch is sort of like a Wii U, except they did everything right as opposed to doing everything wrong. And but the Wii U still has good. The problem is, if it was just a dud, that'd be something. But the Wii U has a lot of good titles, and so it's still popular. So, and it's a Nintendo product. So I think that's probably going to be the one that will be the hardest to come by. I'm trying to think what else came out in that time frame that could be a contender. There wasn't much. I mean, probably. Well, I'm not sure. Can you think of anything else right off the top of your head? Maybe one of the offshoots. I saw a guy doing a video on the PlayStation TV, PS TV, that's before this. But
no, it's not. The PlayStation TV is like 5 years old.
The little one that plays PlayStation games, is that? Well, I don't know, but I mean, however old it is.
The PlayStation TV.
So it's in the. So I'd say that would be in there,
okay,
because it's a goofy. It's an oddity.
I used to own a PlayStation TV.
It didn't do well. A little black box. It didn't do well, and so it's becoming, the price is going up. It's too bad you didn't hold on to that, because apparently it's quite hackable, and you can put PlayStation stuff on there. So I'd say it's something like that, some real weird, or maybe one of the weird, like remember when they released the Game Boy Micro, like, and everybody hated it. It was so weird, but those now they command a pretty hefty fee. You know, so I mean, what do you think? You got any contenders?
Well, you know, the way that I see it is that. We are entering an era where consoles become, with each new generation, they become less and less collectible. And I'll tell you why. Because each new generation of consoles relies more and more on digital purchases, digital games. And so, you know, the 360 was probably the last console that was, or that era was the last console where you had the majority of your games were discs. Okay, already with the PS3 kind of got out ahead of the 360 a little bit in terms of downloadable content. You know, I've bought several games digitally, and the resale value on a system that only can play digital games that you can no longer buy because the company has shut down the server is you know, negligible. So unless you've got some way that you can hack these devices and fill the hard drives up with games, I think that we're on the downslope in terms of the collectible console. I
think you're right, and plus another circumstance is the fact that a lot, even at 360, you have firmware updates and whatnot, that some of which are required to even play the games. So it's a when you get into having to have internet access or having to have the ability to upgrade to certain things. Even the original Xbox had you know, front end updates and stuff that can cause havoc. So it makes it difficult to collect for it. A lot of it depends on how hacked the system gets to see how popular it is. Like the original Xbox still has popularity, and the Wii, I guess, to a certain degree, because of their ability to be used to do things they weren't meant to do. But I think that's going to go away too. I think you're dead on, to be honest with you. I think between digital down and not, like we talked this a couple weeks ago, when you get a disc where it's required to get some stuff from some server somewhere to play, you got nothing. Effectively, you don't have a game. Disc, I think there was a cutoff. There was a collectability cutoff the second that CD media became the deliverer of data, because CDs are easily destroyed. The drive motors go down. You've got a moving part. I could take the Atari I've got and plug it in and put the card in. It's going to work every time. Can you say the same thing about your Dreamcast or your Jaguar CD? You absolutely can't. And so there's a collectability gap right there. And I have a feeling in the future, a lot of these newer consoles, if you're going to have one, it's just going to be up on your shelf to say, like, look what I've got. It's going to be like a art piece, because you're not going to be able to really do anything with it. You know, now they've done a decent job of playing some of the games that they played on old systems forward. So the games will probably be okay, but the systems themselves.
Right. You know, Flack asks in the chat, he says, how many Wii U games will you be able to play in 10 to 20 years? And I think that's a valid question as far as the disc games go, because who knows how many of those are going to rely on patches and things like that. But on the other hand, I think Nintendo has finally caught on to the fact that their older properties are worth some dough, and they're doing a great job of porting the best games from the Wii U over to the Switch.
Yeah, and another thing about the Wii U that makes you wonder is the fact that it's so easily damaged.
Oh yeah,
even worse than a handheld like a Game Boy or something. I mean, this thing you can break pretty easily.
Well, you know, I have personal experience. My saga, the worst experience I've ever had on eBay, and I've been on eBay for 20 years now, is the experience I had selling the Wii U, where the Wii U is the only thing I've ever sold that got damaged in transit.
I remember that, yeah.
And it was a real nightmare that culminated in somebody breaking into the package the third time I tried to steal it and taking the Wii U out of it.
Yeah.
And so
surprise, surprise, you get a dud, pal.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that you know, eventually, you know, like you said, people will still collect. The people that are into collecting old hardware will still collect it, but it'll become more and more like an art piece.
And there may be a time, I always wonder about this, when you have real oddball stuff that some might catch on in the future as a wacky collective one. I'll give you a couple examples. The Ouya, for example, something like that, something real, or the Game Stick. I mean, right now, those are the duds of duds, right? I've had them both. I still have a couple Game Sticks. Another one, stuff like the GP2X or the GP32, those little Korean handhelds, like localized stuff. That may be something that goes up in collectability. That stuff's hard to say, you know. But in terms of mainstream stuff, like I said, I would go with the Wii U. And in 20 years, I doubt there'll be that many of them working, to be honest with you. And maybe the Switch will be fun. As you move into these portability systems with the screen, I mean, you are moving into a realm where you're going to have more breakage. So there's going to be that too. And Switch is probably pretty expensive to repair, you know, because, I mean, that's the system. So you may see a lot more broken ones. Remember when the Xbox 360 had that overheating issue? There are millions of these things out there now that people have tried to repair, and they're duds, and they're laying around. They're going to be around forever too. You know, so you're going to run into problems there. So, you know, that's part of it though. One thing you can say about the old retro systems is you could beat a man to death with them, plug it in, turn them on, and play it.
Absolutely, no moving parts. That's
exactly,
the key.
Exactly.
All right, man, that's going to do it.
All right, adios.
Adios, guys.